formal way. Like if anyone has anything you want to share or ask of Jade or just something.
Did you catch up on the lengthy check-in this morning, Jade?
Oh, yes, I did.
Such good shit.
You guys stirred me up over my morning smoothie. Thank you for that. Yeah.
Over time, have a 1 or 2 max.
Yeah, it was meaty.
Just keep it going, and I'll bet you'll be fine.
Yeah.
Oh, Amy's back in the room, so. Hi, Jade. Welcome back.
Hi, everybody.
Happy tomorrow morning in Australia.
Happy yesterday afternoon to you.
And we turn it back over to you. And I'm sitting on screen just so that I can move the screen when people ask questions.
It's been working well, thank you. Yeah, I did check in with you guys and watched your check-in from this morning, and just the things that came up for me in that space was it tapped into sadness and loss and a couple of things that have gone unacknowledged in my own system, and it's like there was a well of impersonal grief.
What?
In what?
A what?
Impersonal grief. So not grief from things in my lifetime, but just grief in a system. Yeah, and that was very strong.
Past lifetime, most likely. Yeah.
Somebody's lifetime. Yeah. Yeah. So I just wanted to acknowledge that's been present, not just for you guys, but for me as well, before we get into all of this. And one of the things that before we started these classes, Leslie and I were talking about what we're going to go into and things, and there was one chunk of information that it was like, well, it's not for that. And then it showed up anyway, which was the shame piece. So we're not going to go into it, but I am going to share with you my favorite book, if it is something that you want to look at more often, and just acknowledge that in all forms of therapy, it really, really helps for people to understand and recognize shame, because it can undermine even the most basic rapport. And if you can recognize that, and anything relating to thinking something is my fault when it's not, and all of those things, there's an element of shame to that. And when people get too close and you think that there's a very strong closeness there, and then it seems to flip on its head and go, well, now that's actually really bad, there could be a shame piece there. And it's not saying that we work directly with shame, but it really helps to recognize it so that we can acknowledge its presence and work with everything else anyway. Yeah?
What's the book?
This one, Understanding and Treating Chronic Shame.
A relational neurobiological approach. There's a
absolutely.
Understanding.
Yeah, so this
and treating
chronic shame, and there's your author. Yeah, Patricia Young.
Yeah.
So this is another one from the brilliant realms of traditional psychotherapy. They're really great. There's one part at the end where I wholeheartedly disagree with her, where she says, this is something you're stuck with forever. I disagree with that. I agree that grief is something, when there is a big loss and a grief, that is something that stays together. It just gets smaller and in the background rather than the foreground of our lives, and it never goes. but I don't think that that's true of shame. Yeah. But apart from that, everything else in here is just magnificent. So just wanted to.
Yeah, I can attest. I have way less shame in my life now than I used to.
Yeah.
So, for instance,
And shame just seems to be a normal side effect of being a child at some point in one's life. Like when you're a child, you naturally think that everything is your fault because that helps you to cope with a world that doesn't make sense. Because if the world is broken and the big people are broken and you depend on them, then you're screwed. But if whatever's going on is your fault, then you have a bit of control and you have some hope to be able to change it. And if everything's your fault, then there's the layer of shame that comes with that as well. But there is a bug that likes my face. I'm going to just keep waving it away. I'm sorry for that.
Okay to mention another book on shame?
Another.
Many of you have probably Brene Brown, Gifts of Imperfection.
Yeah. What is it called?
The Gifts of Imperfection.
The Gifts of Imperfection.
Yeah,
Right.
Brene.
Anything by Brene Brown.
Yes.
She's a shame researcher.
Shame and vulnerability. Oh my goodness. Thank you. Yeah, so the main focus that we want to have today is on rupture and repair. Okay. So yesterday we had exposure to what can be possible when we have a connection with life and a connection with reaching in a way that is uninterrupted. And some of you may have noticed that when we do that, it stirs our shit up something crazy. Yeah? That it is what we're aiming for, but there is always an ebb and flow. And every time we reach, we're dependent on the environment for a response. And every time we reach, we're reaching into the unknown. And every time we reach, it might not go as well as we want it to. And one of the things that a lot of parents seem to want to do is to protect the children from their arguments. And so I don't know what the current thinking on this, but when I was a kid, if parents were going to have an argument, they'd try to pretend to the kids that they weren't having it, and they'd either take it to the other room or they'd send the kids to their room. And like the kids can sense that something is wrong and they're getting sent away, but they wouldn't actually let the children see the ugly part of the argument or the resolution, right? So a lot of times, as a child who depends on these adults, you get a sense that something's really not okay, but very few of us get to go through the experience and be exposed to relational rupture followed by relational repair. And then when we come to these therapeutic and healing modalities, something is like, if something's wrong, it can feel like the end of the world because we haven't been through that rupture and repair process. And we don't know that when something feels wrong, that it actually isn't the end of the world, and that we can maintain a sense of self and maintain a sense of belonging and connection with others through these periods of unknown and discomfort. So if the biggest thing in a therapeutic relationship is the rapport that we have and the relationship that we have, the second most important thing is, under that umbrella of rapport, is maintaining that relationship through the waves of rupture and repair. Does this make sense to everybody?
Under the umbrella of what?
Rapport.
Okay.
If I ever use the word umbrella, it's probably the umbrella of rapport that I'm talking about.
Under the umbrella of the umbrella.
So, and this applies logistically in the interview process, in one-on-one work with people, and in constellations. When you're looking at the entire process of a constellation, we're actually setting up where the ruptures have been, actually seeing and acknowledging them, and having a space for repair of those ruptures at a systemic level, with all of us there to witness it. So, yeah, that's what we wanted to work with today. Can I ask if there's anything brief that come up for any of you guys when we talk about this?
Yeah, I'll share something. Mostly just my own experience. That was pretty much it, getting sent away to my room when I was a kid, and having a super fear of conflict kind of running through my world a lot, and recognizing that I'm married, but when that relationship started, we didn't have any conflict, and then conflict started to happen, and I started to freak out. But the more times we made it through the other side of that, the more stable the relationship has been, and now it's like it's a whole complete other experience. But that learned safety wasn't something I had growing up, but it's something that I got in my current relationship, which is again like that earned secure attachment piece. So it's been pretty powerful.
Yeah, that's the beauty of this, is that it's like safe relational stress. Instead of freaking out and avoiding all conflict, which is what a lot of us, it's like we get thrown out into the world as semi-formed adults and we try to avoid all conflict, not realizing that more bonding and more strength of our relationships comes from getting through that rupture and repair process.
Yeah.
And it's the parents' best intentions when they do that. It's just an unfortunate side effect that is very common. Yeah.
I was going to share that it's sounds very familiar. And I'm going to say I'm still not, it still feels pretty the end of the world-ish when it's still pretty intense for me.
Although you said last night you had a different experience.
Yeah, I had a different experience with my husband when he was withdrawing. I did have a different experience last night. Yeah, thank you. So maybe it's different now, but as if I feel conflict, I used to just like tense and just shut down basically. But now since I have that life experience behind me, I can sit there with life. Yeah.
Yeah. And I think that's the key to it, is it can feel like the end of the world because it can feel like the end of connection.
Yeah.
Yeah. And a lot of times when we've grown up with varying degrees of what feels like traumatic experience, which relationship rupture always happens. And there is always an ebb and flow to it. But if we've had relationship ruptures that feel disintegrating to us, or that feel like we're going to be alone forever if there is any tiny conflict, that's when it can get terrifying. And the difference with the process of rupture and repair is, whether that's in a therapeutic relationship or in your personal relationships, that process of rupture and repair is you gradually get to this place where you're not there alone, you're there with life. You know that even if things are bumpy, you're actually being accompanied. You're in this together, not in this alone. Yeah? And that can make our connections stronger than anything. So I'm hoping to have some experiences today where we can work with rupture and repair and the conflict that comes from that. And it seems like you guys are already doing your homework in advance of the class.
I was going to say, I'm feeling pretty ruptured already. I'm like, man.
That's fair. Bring on the repair, right?
Yeah, let's do
The repair, yeah.
Yeah, so each of us and each of our clients comes into the room with different experiences of conflict, of rupture, of repair, whether that is having seen it done poorly, having seen it done well, or having not seen it at all and like tiny little conflict, time to move to another state. This is some people's real experience. And there's, unfortunately, it's not discussed in early therapeutic work. Like the best therapists and healers and facilitators that I know work with this, but I actually reckon it should be one of the very first things on the curriculum is to know, okay, rapport is important. Let's practice that. And this ebb and flow process of rupture and repair is actually what the meat of transformation is about. Because when you go through that and you realize that no matter how big the conflict or how big the rupture, you're never in it alone. That's when true transformation actually starts to happen. The wonderful thing about constellations is each of the dynamics in between each role in a constellation has the opportunity for rupture and repair being held by the whole community of the constellation. Does that make sense? Yeah.
Can I ask
I have a question.
Yeah. So looking at this just kind of from like a micro macro scale, the way we handle loss of connection, rupture and repair with ourselves too, like with our younger selves and versions of self, and how we learn. I mean, essentially like rupture with no repair in my interpretation feels like trauma, right? Essentially like that locked out little part. But the way we learn to restore and repair connection with ourselves is also a healing movement, just kind of generally for us. So not only in our interpersonal relationships, but in our relationship with ourselves.
Yeah. And it's always reflected there.
Yeah.
Because like that, like I refer to attachment blueprint rather than attachment style, because it really is a blueprint for relationships, and we learn it interpersonally, but it ends up being how we relate to ourselves.
Yeah. That being
overflows out.
Yeah.
What was that last sentence, Peter?
I was saying, so I've often had an experience of feeling like I was in battle with myself or at war with myself, and making peace and all of this. And definitely my rapport with self has gotten better, but there's still points. So I'm like, how do I heal that little aspect of whatever it is inside here? Get into rapport with myself around that, and what does repair look like when you're dealing with yourself, with aspects of yourself?
So, do you guys do much parts work, like inner family systems type work within constellations, or it's all been about external systems so far?
Well, we just had our last weekend. Volker was here, and he gave us an introduction to that.
And we do some structural constellation work. We've never done explicitly NLP parts work, sort of standardized version thereof. But, the part of me that's hopeless, or the part of me that wants success, we've done some of that stuff.
And I do that stuff in session work a lot.
Okay. Yeah, because it's just a very interesting phrase that you just used, Peter, was that locked up little part of yourself. And that is one of the key things about trauma, is that parts of the self get quarantined and inaccessible in order to keep you safe. And when we're doing our work on restoring safety and regulation, that is so that we can hold the space to reveal those quarantined parts and restore the connection within the system, whether that's the internal or external system. Yeah. I want to show you a little bit of the slides that I was hoping to do yesterday, and then we want to get into some exercises, if that is cool by you.
We're just going to start yelling at each other and then repair.
Start away.
I forgot the Bataka bats, sorry.
I have to say, I've been exposed to parts work outside of NLP, so it's certainly much bigger than that, as you, of course, you know.
Yeah, me too.
Okay, so can you guys actually see this now?
Yes.
Yeah.
It's
You
small.
can see it, but
You might need to come closer. I can't make this any bigger.
Yeah.
Okay, so I just got this one slide. Now remember yesterday we were talking about systemic and somatic sandwich?
Yeah.
So this is the piece that came from my research. So at a high level, my research was looking at chronic fatigue and chronic illness with family constellations as the method to see if there's any themes at a multi-generational level for people who have these symptoms that defy explanation at a medical level. And there were these are the three levels of themes that were revealed by that. Is that there were systemic themes in the system. So what showed up was at the parent or grandparent level, there was an unresolved loss. Yeah, there was some kind of unresolved grief or loss. Someone's parents or grandparents had lost a twin. Someone had lost their homeland. Someone was like, oh yeah, that sibling just disappeared. We know they're alive because someone found them on Facebook, and they were very flippant about these people. But when we set up the constellation, there was a very distinct loss in previous generations. Now, how that showed up was there was a bonding trauma there was attachment and bonding trauma between the parent and the client who had this illness. And in the one-on-one caregiver relationship, because the parent was focused on the upstream loss, they weren't available to bond with the child when it was small. So when it was small, it didn't develop the capacity to self-soothe, and later in life to self-soothe and self-regulate, and later in life that manifested as illness, regulating illness. And then the third set of themes were the somatic ones internalized in the body, which primarily was that interrupted reaching out movement. Now, the interrupted reaching out movement is not always present, but it is I have found that it is frequently present in people with chronic illness. Okay. So with the reaching things that we did yesterday, I want to highlight that we don't start with the somatics. We don't start with the reaching movement. We start with the previous generations and the systemic work. That's my rule of thumb that I always work with. And it's like,
You start with the systemics.
I start with the systemics. I start top down. But often you'll have, you'll see the clues about the systemics in the somatics.
Yeah.
Like the majority of you guys yesterday, when you were starting to sit on the floor, I think at least half of you, let's have a look, had your knees up and were actually holding your own knees. All right? That's a somatic clue for someone who has been not leaning on the support that's behind them. Yeah?
Well, it's also because there was nothing to lean back on, and right? I mean, we were looking up, and we didn't have any back jacks or anything behind us, so.
Yes, and?
But we were able to lean when we let go of our legs and just leaned on them.
Yeah, eventually, I mean, speaking for myself, I'll say, like, I saw Irina finally with her arms back like this, and I was like, oh, okay, I guess I can do that, you know, so then.
Yeah. And there is that logistical part of it, but there are also some people still holding their knees while they were leaning back on the other representative.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah?
Yeah, I was.
Yeah. And so it's that can be a clue to say, okay, here's someone where the leaning is not something that they're in the habit of doing yet. Let's have a look through here, see what else.
And Jade is going to send these slides later.
Yes.
So people don't have to worry about capturing all the images too much unless taking notes helps you learn, in which case take the notes. But
so this is just the summary of what we talked about on Tuesday. Trauma disrupts regulation, attachment, and development. Mm-hmm. We work with safety and regulation first. And with the attachment things, there's also the stuff that we worked with over the last few days. So it's that balance of having a sense of home, a sense of belonging to home, even when you go out and explore in the world, and being able to come back, and having a balance of both of those. And our relationship to the unknown and to our own desire is something that can be distorted depending on how we learn to cope with attachment stress. Yeah. The key thing at the bottom there, attachment styles have an interpersonal origin. That's how they started. It started interpersonally, and it has an interpersonal resolution. Mm-hmm. The interpersonal dynamics are affected by the gravitational pull of whatever's going on systemically, so that's where we start. But I think the important thing here is that a lot of therapy focuses on the individual and forgets about the systemics, but we're not in that category, so that's cool. Yeah, let me just, I don't know if the next one is relevant. Okay, the rupture and repair stuff. So, like I said, everything is rapport first. And unlike sending the children to their room when there's a conflict or discomfort, these things are going to come up in Constellation, and they're going to come up in every relationship that you have, even the relationship with yourself. And the overall framework of constellations to acknowledge what is, to look at the spatial and relational dynamics that are going on, and to just acknowledge what is there, and to get to the point where the discomfort and the conflict is included. Yeah? So rather than okay, it's included. We include that. We don't try to pretend that it doesn't exist.
But what if that was such a useful strategy for so long?
Then we include its usefulness for so long.
All the strategies have been useful for a very long time.
Yeah, they've helped us survive. They've helped us to get to here.
Oh, yay,
And the overall thing with rupture and repair is to know that we're in this together. Like, rather than sitting there alone, I'm sitting there with life. Yeah? Even if the person that I'm trying to be connected with isn't available right now, I'm still not alone. Yeah? So that's the overall with that. Welcome back.
Can I ask a couple of follow-up questions?
Of course.
Just to sort of include in the spectrum, in case anyone is more like my household, then my household was not conflict avoidant. Kind of the other side. Like, my parents were in a rage at each other for 20 years, and I was in the middle of it pretty physically most of the time. So I'm almost a little jealous of you guys who had parents who avoided conflict. I'm like, oh, that would have been fun a little bit. So, I mean, either end of that spectrum is unhelpful.
Yeah, of course.
I just want to even include that.
It's the rupture and repair stuff. When it is rupture all the time, that's unpleasant as well.
And also there's some place for appropriate parental privacy or something somewhere in there around acknowledging what is with the kids and including them, and also saying, you know, kids, this is mom and dad's stuff or something. So having boundaries, maybe what I'm talking about.
So,
including that a little bit.
I have a little short story just on that piece. So my mum married a violent alcoholic at 27, and then so did I at 27. I figured that out with hindsight, that we both did that at the same age. I learned a little quicker than her and got out after a couple years. But when I did, my son was 7, and I didn't know if I was going to explode about things, right? Because I knew that there was a lot being processed, and we were couch surfing, and basic stability wasn't available, and all of that kind of stuff. So there was a lot to cope with. And this is, even though it's not between parents, it's still the rupture and repair thing, because I knew I was going to do things wrong and that he was going to make meaning of whatever happened. And he was still in that window where he was very, very vulnerable and impressionable and is developing. And so I sat him aside at one point and I said, look, kiddo, you know, when someone overreacts to something, it's not because of you, and it's not because of what's happening now. And I think this is almost a primary emotions conversation. I just didn't know it at the time. When someone overreacts to something, it's just because you've reminded them of something they already felt hurt about. It's not because it's a new hurt. And I just said that as a preemptive thing, right? Yeah, okay, I'm going to fuck up. There are going to be ruptures, and that's not your fault, and it doesn't destroy love or relationship or anything, but it's going to get messy. And he went and took that and didn't just apply it to me, he applied it to all people, which was a nice happy side effect. He applied it to his teachers having a bad day. He applied it to all kinds of things, which was really, it's a really nice accident.
Teachers.
But that,
Teachers and nails too.
Yeah, we didn't hear after teachers. You said something after teachers, and we didn't hear it because the microphone did its funky thing.
okay. It's kitchen noises. I apologize.
Yeah.
He applied it to his teachers and everything, and it was a happy accident.
Happy accident.
Yeah, I was just trying to say, look out, your mom's going to be a bit crazy. She's doing stuff, not your fault, right? That was the place that I was coming from, but it ended up being an explanation of this rupture and repair thing. That when there are ruptures, 1, it's not your fault. 2, it's not the end of the world. 3, it's actually a place where things that were already hurting in the person and in the system are just coming up to surface, and we all will survive that and probably be better for it, you know? Yeah, but also a whole bunch of things is like, when those things come up, there is that space of privacy as well. Is like, this is not about you. I just got to go deal with it. But it comes down to, instead of saying, hey, go to your room, or hey, let's rage in front of you, the kids can sense, and we all can sense, and particularly traumatized adults with that hyper alertness and that auto switching and all of those things can sense that something is wrong. And if we just acknowledge, yes, something's going on, whether we repair that or work with that privately or publicly, the acknowledgement has happened rather than pretending it doesn't exist. Yeah? So that's that one. So what I would like to do for exercises for this piece is to actually have input from you guys, because you've had your own experiences, and you've had experiences with clients where different things have come up. Now, I'm happy to steer and drive an exercise or two around this, but before that, I wanted to see, is there any pieces that you guys can come up with that we might want to put into a constellation framework to actually work with this? Like, if anyone's got a particular client or their own experience where like you've got two extremes that are conveniently at opposite sides of the room at the moment, with the raging all the time and the sending to the room, where we could set something up that relates to each of those extremes, if you like. I just wanted to see if you guys if we could brainstorm a few options before we go into one.
With regard
to put on the spot and when things show up, and get to make things up in your own practice as well.
I'm just trying to understand the framework or boundary or context for what we're brainstorming. it's with regard to rupture and repair?
Yes.
Okay.
So you're
Yeah.
looking for examples of ruptures
Yeah.
that we might like to look at, or somebody might like to look at.
And probably, hopefully, something that can be generalized to more than just one person, but relatable to other people.
I mean, I relate to the raging parent.
Yep.
Yeah, I feel like my parents never even acknowledged. Like I wasn't even sent to the room, so it was more like nothing is happening, so suppressed, like on a like deeper level.
Yeah.
That's kind of with that with Peter's.
Yeah. Well, I'm sorry. I wasn't clear. My parents raged at each other loudly and violently, and they sent me to my room.
Oh, I see.
Where I was listening to all of the yelling and screaming, which comes up sometimes in that hypervigilance where I was meditating in my room, and Maddie walked down the hall, and I started getting really anxious and freaked out, like a sound was a trigger. So that's more of that experience.
Okay, to me it's like the silence, but you see people like tense.
Well, and my mom was like that too.
Yeah.
More like suppressed conflict.
Yeah, suppressed conflict and very active conflict.
And then if you want to go ahead and heal everything in the Constellation world that I have to deal with professionally.
Yeah.
Just kidding. But what does come to mind are professional ruptures. Those things are as well.
Well, and I was,
Clients disappear. Well,
I was just going to say, I don't know, Jay, I had one client who was also a friend where, and I can't remember if I told you this, where we did the Constellation and it triggered off a lot for them. And then they were really upset and really in like a trauma response. I talked about emotional deregulation for like 3 or 4 days. And I guess mostly for me with that person, it's like learning how to be with them when that's happening and noticing my own attachment style, but I'm not sure if that's relatable to everybody. So,
Yeah. Well, like if someone is dysregulated, because like, in this one, Shame Book, they have the most beautiful definition of shame. It is the disintegration of one's sense of self in the presence of a dysregulating other.
oh yeah. Yes, that right there.
That right there. And that's what we're talking about with the raging parent, for someone being not regulated for 3 or 4 days, and how to be with that, because being in the presence of a dysregulating other is difficult as an adult, let alone as a child.
I just want clarity. Is it a dysregulating other or a dysregulated other?
Either. The definition
fine, and we experience it as dysregulating, or they could actually be dysregulated.
So I would say that it actually is both.
Okay.
The definition is dysregulating, but if you look at that situation, particularly a parent-child situation, the child's sense of self disintegrates, or I would actually say doesn't get a chance to form because it hasn't actually integrated yet. Yeah? The child's sense of self is what is affected by the presence of a dysregulating other. But the most dysregulating other is going to be a dysregulated other. Yeah?
Right. Of a dysregulated other.
Correct. Yeah. And that's the basis of shame.
Disintegrate self.
That's interesting. I like that. I mean, I'm trying to. So, I've had my own very systemic definition of shame that's based on, kind of cardinal Hellingerian principles, right? Which is just, guilt and shame are warning lights indicating that belonging is at threat. right?
Mhm.
If you are the one that is creating the threat to belonging, then you feel guilt. If you
Mhm.
are the one that is sort of being acted upon such that belonging is being threatened now because of what others are doing, you feel shame.
Yeah.
So I'm trying to, and I feel like that's a good definition, but I'm trying to relate or connect this to what you're saying.
The connection is that sense of self and sense of belonging are intertwined.
Yeah.
Yeah. So if you imagine an infant
Okay.
that has not yet individuated, right?
Right.
They're developing a sense of self within an ocean of belonging. And if that belonging is threatened, then their sense of self is too. Does that help marry the two?
Yeah.
Also, the word other implies belonging. It's more than one.
Yeah.
There's now a system.
Yeah.
You and someone else.
So essentially, if the sense of self is threatened or the sense of belonging is threatened, both basically get a nice little thwack.
Oh, yeah.
They're the same, different sides of the same coin.
They absolutely are. And it's not even a coin.
Right. So it's like the dysregulating other could be an individual. It could be a clan, for instance, right?
Yeah.
It could be living in a war-torn environment.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or in the presence of racism if you're a person of color. In which case it's basically a constant experience of life.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or homophobia.
Yeah.
Right.
Totally.
Was Dan Covenant from before?
That's earlier in the day, not
Got it.
connected to this.
Thanks. Just checking.
Yeah, there's a big page, so I decided not to go to another page. I just wrote up your quote, that's why they're all pointing over here.
Yeah. So when we're talking about these examples, the raging parent, the suppressed conflict, the professional ruptures, silent tension, let's pretend nothing is happening. These are all others, dysregulated others, that's having an impact on the sense of belonging and the sense of self of the individual. Yeah? And these are all situations where they could benefit from having some kind of rupture and repair exercise. Yeah?
Do you want to get a couple more examples, Jade?
I think so. We've got, these are nice examples, and they led very beautifully to that definition. But yeah, have you guys got any more examples, or you want to work with one or two of those?
So examples being, okay, conflict being hidden and conflict being unboundaried and spilling out.
Yes.
Well,
Conflict being denied rather than just hidden.
Mm-hmm.
kind of a form of hidden, though.
Yeah.
One of my father would, if anybody disagreed with him, he would turn it around so that they were stupid.
That's big.
Just offering it.
It's nothing, really. I got 10 more of those where that one came from, right?
There's the whole realm of sexual shame of all different kinds, right? I mean, it's a rich, nigh bottomless territory.
Yeah. But the with all of these pieces, the three, I'm attempting to come up with neutral roles that we can represent. And conflict seems to be always present.
Yeah.
One way or another. There are different ways of acknowledging or not acknowledging conflict. There's different ways of expressing or not expressing conflict, but that seems to be a universal thing that's present. You guys agree?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is.
Want to name is that for those of you who are experiencing and reporting a bit of dysregulation last night or this morning, this is an opportunity to take a look at possibly.
Well, and that was a question I was actually kind of curious about is, as someone who has spent much time in significant dysregulation, learning new skills for repair and whatnot, but what are some of the ways, especially if you're with yourself or you're working with someone, that you can help? Creating a sense of safety with a client is one thing. And I know rapport is the umbrella for all of this, but like practical tips for regulation, especially when one is in, I guess,
Yes, it is.
finger my face, tap my head, and practice the bagels and all of that. But in conflict, I mean, again, I feel like personally I have more tools now, and usually, again, it's sort of trying to find and state the truth and then feel and shift, and I've got some of that, but a lot of people don't have basic tools for that I've encountered.
Yeah.
So
Two big things. First is acknowledge what is, right? Always acknowledge what is. And the second piece, which is there are infinite practical ways to do this, probably as many as there are as situations, but coming back to primary emotions, if you can be in a space of acknowledging and being in your present in your primary emotion, then at least one aspect of the system is. Yeah. And so much of this is like, well, if you've had an experience of leaning on life or reaching to the unknown or connecting with desire in a less distorted way, then that's present in your system, which means it's present in the system you step into. It makes it become accessible when it may not have been before, and particularly with the primary emotions thing.
Reminds me, real quick, it reminds me of Don Raymer. I did a little hypnotism training with him, and he said the easiest way to help get people into a trance is to go first. Essentially, so putting yourself in that space first. So primary feelings and stuff too. I hadn't thought about it systemically.
Yeah, because we can get in the place, and that particularly, that's almost the definition of conflict, is trying to change someone else, right?
Right.
You don't want to turn your healing session into a conflict session by trying to change someone else, even though they come to you for change.
So tend to your own regulation first seems to be useful.
Yeah.
Cool.
So I would like to set up a blind constellation, have one of you guys facilitate, have two of you guys in roles, and have Leslie set up a couple of blind cards.
Sounds great. Can we take 5 minutes for a pee break?
Pee break.
I require that break as well.
During
Yes.
which she could explain to me what that just meant.
Okay, great.
I was going to facilitate word line
Leslie's going to what?
Sorry, what did you say?
So, 3:10.
Okay.
Cool. See you soon.
What was that?
Have you got a couple of cards?
No cards.
Yes.
Nothing. Sometimes I'll flip them over and find that
There's something there already.
mother. Oh gosh, we don't want mother in this constellation or
You didn't invite her into the room.
Thailand right now. Okay. Okay.
So, I don't know if you can read that.
Yeah.
Yeah? Want that to be the first one?
Want that to be A.
Yep.
And that's D. I see a D.
It can be B, but
I can't see B. You got to lower it for me to see.
yeah, no, but I only want that one.
So you want A and it could be called B, but that's what you want.
That's yeah. So those are the two things. Unless you think differently, I had
I am in your hands.
yeah, because I'll show you the whole 4 I had. I had control and expression in there as well, because they all seem to be things. But seeing how we relate to conflict and we relate to regulation, that might be helpful. But I just want to. It would be cool to have those set up.
Mm-hmm.
We want them to have some practice instead of being in small groups. I thought we could do this all together.
So the facilitators would have to know what A and B are. The facilitator, singular,
Yes.
would need to know what A and B are in order to be able
Yeah,
to do
but
that.
the roles don't need to
Okay, until they're
till
done.
later.
Okay.
Yeah?
Yeah, I think
Okay,
that's
cool.
fun. Yeah.
Lovely.
Yep.
Okay. And yeah, we can either have it just one person as client relating to both of those, or we can have one client's parents, mom and dad, relating to each of those.
Yeah, whatever you think. So
Yeah?
potentially 4 representatives is what you're saying?
Potentially, yeah. Yeah, because I think looking at mum and dad's relationship to conflict and regulation and each other is probably going to be more insightful than chucking a client in there personally.
Do you eventually want E, child?
Eventually. Is there a particular person you'd like to chuck in there?
I was thinking generic family, generic mother, generic father,
family.
generic child.
Yeah.
Is sort of what I was thinking.
Okay.
Or I was thinking what you were thinking, that was what you were thinking.
Yeah, I'm trying to put awareness and options on the menu without stirring up too much. Yeah?
Too late. Amy over there said, too late.
I'm having fun. I'm tired.
How are you doing, Amy? I
I,
noticed we're looking a little punky.
I'm so tired. But otherwise, well, thank you for asking.
I have to go have a little break. I will be
Do
back.
what you gotta do.
Yep. Back soon.
Big lunch. Happy nap.
Yeah.
That is my first time sitting in these chairs. They're the pits.
Yeah, they're not, remember, there is that green one,
Yeah,
but
maybe
that
I
one's a
should-
little high for you, I think, in your legs.
I can try it.
But you can try it, and you can have this pillow with that if you want to. That will take you even higher.
No.
Uncomfortable.
Is
Even
this one more
higher.
comfortable than this one for you, than these guys, the folding ones?
Oh, I'm fine in the brown one. I was just saying the one John B just picked up, that's very uncomfortable.
Yeah.
This is?
Yeah.
I mean, a lot of people think the brown one is uncomfortable, and for Peter, it's the best
It's
in
the
the
best
world.
one, yeah, 'cause it's the
So
right.
I'll try with you.
Is that all right?
Yeah, yeah.
It's just the right height for my legs.
Oh, yeah, no, go for it. I like the black folding chairs.
Awesome. Thank you.
Do you really?
it's a win-win.
I do.
Wow.
Yeah, for me, I mean, they're fine. They're a little short for me, and they're short in the seat.
Oh, no problem.
So I feel like it's not holding enough of my butt.
Something,
Like
yeah.
that's better on my actual tush, but this is better for my whole body.
Posture.
I think it's also stuffy. Can that door stay open for a while?
Sure. Why don't you turn that on for a minute, Peter?
Ah,
It's very stuffy in here, yes.
Where's the air coming out of that?
Okay, I'll
Yeah.
Stick my head out the door that way.
Just stand here.
We need some fresh air to like
I'm so
figure out.
I'm so sleepy.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the right height.
I mean, it's like an airplane liftoff. I mean, once I'm wondering if
Well, there is like a fan that's not the compressor
Yeah.
option. It just takes a minute.
yeah, I know.
Oh, it's still.
That's still pretty loud. It worked. Oh, there it went. But you don't hear that engine noise,
Yeah.
but you got the wind noise.
Still, I can probably still hear it.
We'll see how it is for Jade, because
Right.
from over here, that's not very loud.
But those mics are very powerful pickups too. So
Yeah, we'll see how it sounds to her.
that's fun. How much was that little guy?
Only $70. It's really affordable.
Did you get it online? Or?
Yeah, Amazon.
Sweet.
But and I've had it a while though. I've had it almost 10 years. So
wow.
Yeah, I had to get it for like the first time I started recording workshops.
I mean, the fact that Jade can hear Jeff's voice on the other side of the room.
All of the levels on this are jacked up to max.
Right. I'm just thinking when I do constellations with remote clients, having something like that would be very, very.
Yeah,
nice.
I always, whenever I do them for Stephanie,
Yeah.
I have to have this or she can't hear
Yeah.
what's going on in the room.
Yeah.
And when I have it, I kind of don't have to worry about this. It would be nice if I had a cameraman
Yeah.
just to shift the camera from time to time, but other than that, I know she can hear even if there's someone's turned away and over on the other side of the room.
I have an
I
external
can
camera
hear the
that's
whole way.
It's got a wide angle lens. I have an external camera with a wide angle lens that generally captures most of the room.
That's a nice
which is
thing to have.
Very helpful option.
That's worth considering. We have a fan on. How is that for you? Jeff, speak in your normal voice.
I hear no fan.
Seem to be the test subject.
Yeah, I hear no fan, and if anything, Jeff's clearer than before.
Can you plug the speaker back on?
But that
Hold on.
whatever just happened now,
Don't say anything important yet.
What just happened now, what?
so remember I was saying that there's like this every now and then there's a airplane noise. It almost sounds like it might be the fan inside the computer.
That's probably true.
Right now.
Everyone said, this computer, I'm a little irked. It's new, and it seems to me the fan comes on more often than it ought to at this stage in its life.
That's all I can hear. I can't hear the other one in the room. I can see it, but I can't hear it.
Well, you're so far away from that. I would be surprised if it's because the mic is way over here. Is it on right now? The computer fan?
The fan stopped.
So I have done Zoom sessions with someone else, and it sounds like there's like a rushing water stream, but there's no water.
No, this is not my computer fan. It's not on right now.
Okay. Well, it's not on now. It's while we've been talking just now, it's come on like 4 times.
Yeah.
I can usually notice when it comes on. It's pretty obvious noise, but the mysteries of sound. Everybody regather.
We're still missing a guy.
Before we start, if you will tell, once we sign the facilitator and I tell them what we are, can you just tell the facilitator what their goal is? Is it just to do the MRI type thing, or are they supposed to try and change anything? Just so they know what their job is.
Of course. Of course.
Peter, do you have any of the hand stuff?
I think I do. Yeah.
Okay, close the door behind you. We've discovered the fan does not bother Jade's hearing yet at this point, so we'll have the air on for a little bit.
Can we turn it down?
That's as down as this one. That one.
Really?
This one only goes to that one.
You can turn that one off, Jeff. It's the green button.
Huh?
It's
It's
like,
actually lovely.
Turn it off eventually, but just to get the air moving in the room a little bit.
anyone needs hand stuff, I've got tons of hand stuff.
So Jade is suggesting a constellation. She has something in mind. Who would like to facilitate? Rena's hand popped right up. Is that okay with everybody?
Yeah.
Yeah, she wanted to next time, so.
Your last weekend,
So,
that's right.
in a moment, I'm going to give you the roles so you know what they are. Could you tell her what her job is as facilitator?
Of course. So, Irina, we got these two roles.
Oh, just
So we're going to place them first. And then we're just going to take a look at the dynamics here. We're not actually going to try to change anything.
Sounds good.
We're going to take a look at the dynamics of the system, and we want to resolve this by saying yes to how things are.
Okay. So no actual client or like the group client? Okay.
We call this an archetypal
Yeah.
constellation.
Yeah, so we're going to have these two roles placed, and then we're going to have an archetypal or typical mother placed in relation and see what the relationship is with those two roles.
Okay.
And we might start by seeing what their relationship is to each other. And then we're going to place a mother, and we're going to place a father, and see how they are in relationship to those two and how they are in relationship to each other with those two present.
Okay.
And do you have a moment when you want Irina to do the reveal, or let her choose that moment?
Let her choose that moment. Yeah. So this is as much for you having a feel and working with the unknown as well. But yeah, the aim of the game is to have a look at the dynamics and to say yes to it, and rather than resist it.
Okay.
And I just want you to know, this is A,
Okay.
this is B. You've got A and B in there. And you'll give out those roles. And as you're saying, you'll just see the interaction for a little while, and then you'll add in these two,
Okay.
and which I have ready for you.
Sounds good. All of this by step. First I add C, then D, then E.
However you want to do it.
Okay.
Actually,
Yeah.
big lunch. I ate my whole thing.
Okay, so can I have 2 volunteers?
I think most of us are willing.
Who wants to be conflict?
That's, we don't know this. Well, yeah. We don't know which one.
Like, maybe I'll be one of the other three that come in later.
Exactly. Yeah.
So go ahead and stand up and feel into the role. Take a moment, step into the role, and then find your position in relation to each other. You can report something out when you start noticing.
I feel a pull down.
Okay. How are you feeling towards this one?
How do I feel towards this one? It's not totally registered yet. I'm feeling internally kind of like,
How about you?
Well, initially I just wanted to disappear. But then I noticed there was a problem. I feel like I should do something, but I'm not sure. I have no idea what to do about the problem.
How's your body feeling?
Uh, kind of scared. Kind of scared.
Scared.
Inadequate. Feeling inadequate, scared.
How are you feeling towards this one?
Sad. Just gonna let her down.
I feel like you're
I'm gonna let her down.
gonna learn.
I always do.
Yeah.
Oh. Yeah.
Great. See you.
And you get to decide when you reveal it to the room or how you want to handle that.
Let's see what.
Be careful of leaving things in your pocket
yeah.
as facilitator. just a little bit of hygiene there.
Yeah. So what happened to you?
I don't know. It also feels kind of hopeless.
Yeah.
I can tolerate her presence, but it doesn't feel hopeful.
Mm-hmm. You feeling like you're gonna let it down. That's what you always do. And you feeling like
I want to disappear.
you want to disappear.
I do.
I'm feeling pretty much in agreement with that's our dynamic.
Mm-hmm.
I want her to disappear too. But
You want everything to disappear?
no, like her. One of us should disappear. Yeah.
I don't really actually feel as strongly that you should disappear. But I do feel like you probably will let me down.
And it's hopeless.
Yeah.
Okay. So Genevieve's conflict and Christina is regulation. Right? Dysregulation.
Is regulation.
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 So can I bring
If you want to give them cards or however you want to do it.
yeah. No, I'll do one, yeah. Okay, so Amy. So regulation, how are you feeling?
Pulled me a lot out of it a little to have this one arrive. And see that she's being careful and protecting herself, and I don't blame her. But I'm a little more awake with her around, and I kind of want to keep her in my view. Like, there might be something for me there.
Okay. How about you, Coco?
Well, I'm not going away, but I'm interested in these.
Do you
two.
still want her to disappear, or one of you to disappear?
Not as much.
Okay. And how about you?
I want to hide or escape.
You do?
Yeah. Like I see her looking at me, and I sort of want, like, I'm kind of ducking behind Jeff.
I don't feel a real urgency about that. I'm kind of like, I'll still be here, and so will you.
I don't like that.
Right.
Yeah.
Like, that
What
was
are you
very
noticing?
interesting.
Yeah.
Yes.
My attention just.
Okay, so attention for you. How about conflict and regulation? What has changed since?
So I mentioned out of the room, but I'm trying to get to this one now.
I don't like that. I don't want her close.
I like that he has brought her in a little more.
He brought in.
her in a little more.
Yeah.
Like engaged.
And I'm not as uncomfortable with you now. I still want to get away from that one.
Yeah, I feel like I should come over here.
That's a little too much. I'm not like really bothered by you, but that was
It's not the right place.
this feels pretty good actually. I like this triangle right here.
Oh my God. What are you noticing?
The best way to describe it is it feels sort of like a witnessing presence.
Okay.
Like just like I feel like I'm seeing and holding the system, and it feels really good. Yeah.
How are you feeling towards this two?
I like them.
Mm-hmm.
Compassionate.
Compassion. Like love? Compassion.
Passion and understanding.
Understand. How about you guys?
It feels comfortable to have him here. And I'm glad she's kind of not stalking me anymore.
And how about you?
Yeah, like this one just seems like a friend. It's not overly, there's nothing, bad feelings, and it's not like super like, it's just like friend.
Uh-huh.
And yeah, still, this one feels good still. I like this one. I'm aware of that one. It's kind of circling around for free, and it's okay. Like I kind of get that there's a way where that one feels in distress, and I kind of feel like it's okay. We're here to help if we can.
Okay. How about you, conflict?
I'm just trying to find a place to belong.
What seems most comfortable?
Well, when he was here, when he came in, I thought, oh, see, now there is one for me there. I belong there, but I have to stay within a certain range of him.
How about you?
I feel like I'm just kind of biding time until I get my proper connection with this one.
You most interested in this one?
Mm-hmm.
I'll say that I feel like most of my attention is in this syndrome.
Mm-hmm.
I'm aware of this one, but I feel quite like my work.
Yeah. Okay, so I'll do the reveal. What's this three? This is Divine Mother, Divine Father.
Not divine,
Oh, Mother.
just mother, just
Okay.
father.
Was it written down?
No.
Did I made it up?
You made it up.
Oh my god. So that might change things. Oh, wait.
Well, no, it's
let's
whatever was on here.
Yeah, okay.
Don't worry about that.
Because I was, Mother, Father, Child.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
No. Who's holding everything in
Together.
this system? FYI.
It feels really good to be inappropriately big.
And conflict has a place around the child.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's interesting. Can we bring one more
We have
in?
more.
Yeah.
So may I assign that and we can reveal it after? I just want to see what happens when we bring this one last piece into the system.
Sure.
Okay.
So you are undefined, defined by J to F. Because we have A, B, C, D, E here.
So many big ones here now. That should be big too.
So we have a being Constellation.
Marina, can you do me a favor? Maybe find a spot somewhere there just so Jade can fully see.
Yeah. A lot of shifts. How are you doing?
Okay, I mean, there's not a lot going on. I just feel like I want to be in between. Not really sure between what. I thought it was at first between you and them, but
For my sake, can you speak up just a little bit more? Jade may be hearing you, but I'm having trouble. Sorry.
better microphone.
I know.
At first, when I first stepped in, I thought I wanted to be between child and conflict between them and them. But then he moved over there, so maybe it's just blocking conflict or something. I'm not sure.
And this feels great, by the way. I just want to say that.
Mm-hmm. How about you guys? We're pretty constant order,
Sorry.
yeah.
Yeah, just
Some
slight
seems like a
adjustment
common-
here,
common
but we can
presence.
stay connected.
Mhm.
Right.
And regulations and regulating.
I feel comfortable now.
Are you supporting the student?
I feel like I'm a conduit. That's why I felt more natural when he wasn't leaning right on me.
I feel like if I won't, I want to be leaning
among the three of them, essentially. This is a really good first step to that.
Should we do a review?
Yeah, I would love to know who this is. So,
Yeah,
yes.
I'd like to know what the difference is for conflict when this new one steps in.
Yeah.
Well, I wanted to sort of back up and out of the picture, but I didn't think that was quite it. So I started to feel like I should stay near this one, but then thought, well, I'm freer than that. I can move more than that. But this is where I'm stuck. I'm stuck here now, and yeah, I don't feel seen, but I can't leave.
Okay.
Ooh, that's a strong sentence. I don't know what it means, but it's a strong sentence.
I just want to say that I see you, and I'm not as afraid of you as I would have been. I see you. And I see this one too.
That is lovely. Okay. So,
Who's Jeff?
Who's Jeff?
okay, so I find it interesting that regulation stood up and started doing its job when this one came in, and that the inappropriate bigness just went the hell away.
Yes.
Like, that's Jeff is repair.
Yeah, so
What happens when we bring repair into the system?
Wow. Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like, goosebumps. Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
The child stops trying to repair to take that spot.
Thank God. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well.
And no wonder sorry, not my place. Interpret.
You could share what you notice.
Just conflict, feeling sort of attached to repair, but also sort of not getting to be a full self, you know?
But even this motion with conflict makes sense.
Mhm.
Because repair could dismantle conflict.
Ooh, maybe not dismantle.
Well,
Well,
Just prepare.
There's just a constant dance.
Closer.
Yeah.
Heal.
Inevitable.
Yeah.
for the time being.
Heal.
Till next conflict.
Exactly.
should conflict have a place?
I would say so.
Well, I don't believe in the should word, but conflict is ever present. If there are relationships and if there is genuine or authentic primary experience, conflict will be present. It's better if repair is also present. Then someone, usually the smallest in the system, doesn't have to try to be.
Would it be okay if I suggest one small move? See what happens?
Of course. Well, we haven't said yes to this.
What?
We haven't said yes to this before we move anything.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right.
All right.
Yeah.
How would we say yes to it?
Just hold the space of yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then whatever move you want to work with, Leslie, go for it.
I was just wondering what would happen if repair and conflict just turned and faced each other. We kind of saw each other. Conflict in gunslinger mode. Which is kind of awesome. And I'll leave it to Irina to inquire with them and how it feels for other people.
How does it feel for you guys, conflict and repair? Or conflict in the first?
It's competitive for who's watching them? You or me? That's what it feels like. We're leaving the family alone without us.
No, you guys are still here.
How about you, repair?
Without this one, I wouldn't. Unnecessary.
Yeah, I don't know if that was resulting.
Well, my experience was I was kind of like, do we really have to face this? This is just like right here. Well, if I'm gonna have to face this, then I'm gonna. I really want my attention to be here, not as much there. So I can see this, but I feel like my awareness is more like, again, leaning into that feeling, that support on my layer. So I can see it, but I don't need to all be. It's not all about that.
What is regulation doing?
I'm just hanging out.
Yeah,
I'm with the family.
I don't have a job right now, but you're there.
I feel like I'm still pretty close.
Okay. Any changes for the family?
Feel good?
Maybe sort of settling in more.
Is there any movement that you guys want to do? Okay. Yeah. The conflict really wants to. Yeah.
Not be forgotten.
Yeah.
I don't want to be forgotten.
What comes to my mind is like, it's like you want to be a contribution.
There's a purpose.
Yeah.
Have a purpose.
You help them grow.
It's good that there's this available.
Yeah.
But really, don't like wish it away or anything.
Yeah, and we don't wish you away either.
Yeah.
Can you say them with this I'm safer? I see if it's true.
I don't personally feel unsafe. So,
Yeah, and I don't feel like it needs to be made safe.
I see.
You
That's
know?
my own projection of
Yeah,
conflict. Yeah.
yeah,
Mhm. Interesting.
Yeah.
She already said that one gives her a place.
So I'm noticing like I see this one, but I also want to see other things. Like I totally see this one, and I'm like, this can't be all that there is in this world.
Yeah.
This is just like a limited window, but I'm like,
so much of your
You are right.
I'm like looking over at the wooden stand over there for like everything else.
Yeah,
Like,
you
just kind of like,
You want to go play?
Yeah, so take it too much of the landscape.
Okay. Well, it feels complete to me. I don't know if there's anything else, Jade, that you feel like needs to be done.
thumbs up.
awesome.
Awesome.
Okay.
Don't forget to take cards out of pockets.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't have mine anymore.
That was great.
Fascinating.
Who knew the conflict would be conflict and repair would be so enjoyable.
So I have a question. With this, so this was like a general constellation or archetypal. Is you with this constellation? So is it like a general system, or is it somebody's system? Or did everybody resonate with the system? Because what was happening definitely resonated with my system.
Yeah, me too.
Okay, so that was like universal child experience and universal, right? Is that right? Okay.
Well, no specifics in the story either, right? So
Yeah.
just the dynamic.
Right. And feelings are not as strongly personalized because it's generalized,
right.
right? It's not that exact.
Generic constellations sometimes reveal usefully abstract, dynamics. But we're always going to feel them personally and personalize them.
There's a space with these archetypal constellations where you get the embodied knowing without having your own personal entanglements show up.
Well, I was gonna share one more story before we started, which was this like kind of core memory for me, where my parents were fighting, and I came down the stairs and I yelled at them to stop, and they did. And then every time afterwards I would try to do that, they'd say shut up and send me to my room. But it worked once, and I kept trying.
There's the inappropriate bigness right there.
Never reward that sort of thing. Yeah. It's awesome. We have all our own versions of that.
Right, yeah.
Accidentally feeling like we did something.
Yeah, so I haven't looked at those dynamics in that way before. That was incredibly revealing.
Yeah, that's cool.
That was awesome. Jade, would you summarize the main points of what you noticed?
Yeah, I think the fan is actually becoming annoying now.
Okay.
Yeah.
Peter's turning it off. It always has a momentary lag time.
Yeah.
Okay, did it just stop?
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, that was the offending sound. Okay. Yeah, so
That was amazing.
each of those movements, when we brought in another person, like, it was fascinating. So the mother feeling like she's being stalked by conflict and trying to hide and escape from it. Right? Literally trying to avoid and get away from conflict. And then the father's attention completely on the mother at first. Yeah? Like this, the big pieces about conflict is that conflict wants to contribute and it can't find its place without repair. That whole thing of rupture and repair being a contribution, the same way that Peter was saying in his own relationship, that rather than avoiding, actually having that over and over being something that strengthens our bonds.
I mean, it's literally, you think about the physiological metaphor of exercise, where you're rupturing muscle, right? But then the repair creates greater strength, right?
Literally, yeah.
Right, but think about if the repair didn't happen, then exercise would not be a contribution.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway.
And I think early in the constellation, to when conflict was saying that she wanted to disappear and she felt like regulation wanted her to disappear.
And I'm gonna let her down. I'm gonna let regulation down.
Yeah.
We always do.
That's right. And regulation was kind of in agreement with that, but then regulation didn't exactly want you to disappear because, like, what is there to regulate without you?
I know. It's just kind of all the same, and it's still the same, and it's more the same. And it's still the same.
Yeah, right.
I got nothing to do.
Yeah.
I'm like, I guess.
Yeah, right.
Funny.
But then, yeah, but we couldn't be alone either because, like, what good am I? It's just with conflict as regulation. Yeah, it's interesting to isolate those elements.
Mm-hmm.
It was really interesting to, I mean, that child in the middle, like, really felt like, I mean, I felt like Zen Buddha, like, kind of like, I am here. Like, I see you all. This is I love you all.
I
have
got
a place.
this.
Yeah, it was totally.
You literally said, I feel and contain the entire system.
Oh, right. Yeah.
Yes. I peel and contain.
Yeah.
Yeah, something
Yeah.
like that.
That's how a
Totally.
child feels.
Yeah.
I'm seeing and holding the whole system, and it feels really good.
Meanwhile, inside regulation,
Well, when I looked at regulation, I'm like, I don't know what that my relationship is to that one fully. Like, it didn't feel quite like my purview, you know. Like, I effectively felt like I wanted that one to be fine, but I didn't have any impact on that really. So my impact was with mom, dad, and conflict. And then when you brought in, you know, repair, then repair could do that, and I could just like resting against regulation felt really restorative. It was just like, it was just perfect. And it felt like a necessary step before I could get to mom and dad. Like, was sort of like leaning against regulation for myself helped me get to a place where I could then lean on mom and dad. Yeah.
Wow. So regulating before leaning on support. Before leaning on mom and dad, yeah. And that's one of the things with constellations is we want the children to lean on the support of the family, but if there's this regulating step that needs to happen first, we can often railroad that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. And I noticed that as mother, after repair came in, I moved from the right side of father to the left side of father. So,
Wow.
yeah.
All this place stuff. Yes.
Oh no, just at the end it was just kind of like the feeling was more like I really want to go out and play and do something else. Like conflict repair, great, but there's got to be more out there. I don't want to just sit here all day.
That's perfect. And
you were free to play.
Yeah, it's like there's got to be something else.
But yeah, this whole relationship with our innate desire for exploration and play and expression and having that come out, it happens automatically when these other pieces are in place.
Yeah.
And expression was on her original list. She didn't end up having anyone represent it.
Expression. Got it.
But it showed up in the report of the representative. Christina, you were going to say something.
Oh yeah, well, I was just continuing on kind of the unfolding, and then when the child leaned on the regulation leaned on the mother, and that was when it felt like a conduit between the two. And then the mother at some point was like, no more, you know, and then the regulation pulled away and the child went over, and then the regulation didn't need to lean on either of them because they were now connected.
Relation complete.
And I could just like kind of hang out.
So well, even just looking at the regulation role, how it first started completely collapsed on the floor.
Right.
Yeah.
And hopeless.
Right?
Yeah. Well, faced with conflict and nothing else, felt hopeless.
Yeah. It's like there was nothing there to regulate.
Yeah.
I can tolerate this, but I'm not hopeful. Was the initial.
It reminds me of a constellation that I had. It was individual type of constellation, but in the constellation, I was the child holding, and I couldn't go play. Like I literally have no energy to do, like to work or do anything else because I was holding my system. So what we did in the constellation, she actually had had me put like a block or like a wall. Like we built a wall that was holding the system, so I can go play. But as now I'm thinking about that move, as you know, what else could have been done? Because it's like we kind of built a wall there that was holding, but maybe there was something more that could have been done with the system, so it's self-sustained, but I don't have to hold it. Because it felt like a special move. Oh well.
The majority of systems already come with built-in conflict. So don't need to represent that most of the time. It can help to be explicit with it.
Right.
Bringing in regulation as that step, if it's difficult for the child to stop being too big, if it's difficult for people to be in their proper place, bringing in regulation as a step, bringing in repair to the system that it might not have had before, might be something that we can practically do so that the system can adjust with regulation and repair as elements that are present and available.
So can I ask for just, I mean, I have a felt sense and an intellectual sense, but I just kind of would like a definition for regulation. Kind of like you have like a really great one for trauma, because it feels like it's a little more than just like managing your feelings. It feels like it's got more than that.
Okay. Regulation is a whole field of work on its own. Regulation and my personal definition of fitness are very similar in that it is the capacity for restoring equilibrium after stress or arousal. Yeah? And in this case, extreme stress or arousal, which would be trauma.
That's helpful.
Can you repeat the sentence?
The capacity to restore equilibrium after stress or arousal. So if your heart rate elevates, it can come back down. If your emotions get worked up, they can come back down. If your relationships get ruptured, they can be repaired. Yeah, it's restoring that healthy equilibrium. And I prefer equilibrium or allostasis over balance, because there is always an ebb and flow to the ocean, but if there's a tsunami that comes back to that little gentle ebb and flow, that is completely natural. Yeah. Balance is too static. There's no space for life and movement with balance in my understanding.
That's really. Can I offer something on that? Just my own experience of regulation had been. I just had a constellation around some of this. Basically, really high stress and then really low crash, and that was like the two super extremes. And maybe somewhere in the middle, if you like, the wavelengths canceled each other out, but it didn't really feel like restoring equilibrium.
It's that restorative place.
Yeah, getting back to so after we left yesterday, I'm like, I recognize that so much of the things that I've done that are part of my old feel-good strategies have been cranking up my sympathetic nervous system, coffee, stimulants, cigarettes, like whatever it is, actually like ramps up the fight or flight, which has been kind of the place where I've been sort of the most comfortable or the most resourceful for so much of my life. And I actually was driving home and I'm like, how do I rest? How do I actually like do that? That hasn't been a practice of mine, to like cultivate parasympathetic support, to like actually do things that feel nourishing and restorative. That's where I feel like for this, for me, the balance there actually is getting to that restorative place and not just the crash, which is like the fake restoration. Sleep because you have to.
Yeah, it's like the crash is the counterbalance to the peak, but it isn't restorative.
Yeah.
Yeah. May I offer a parasympathetic thing? Playing with different temperatures can actually help.
How so?
So heat over, sorry, I don't speak Fahrenheit, but heat over 42 degrees Celsius
Oh, right.
and cool under 20 degrees. So that would be over about 100, 110.
Yeah, very hot.
Sauna level heat, particularly far infrared sauna level heat. And cool temperatures under about 20 degrees. So cold ocean water, but not icy.
Yeah.
So within our body's systems, there are 4 different temperature regulation things, and we have warm and cold that are manageable, and then we have really hot and really cold, and completely different system activates then. And when we're talking about stress or arousal, and usually we don't activate those other temperature systems, but they can actually be really restorative, because it's like going to the gym. We go out into those different extremes, and then it gives our body and our system practice at coming back to establish an equilibrium. And particularly with chronic pain, chronic illness, all that kind of stuff, even when you have a negative response to weather levels of heat, a far infrared sauna can take you up into those heat areas where your body can practice that parasympathetic reset and come back into equilibrium. Or you can chuck a thing of ice in the bath and sit in that for a bit, and your body can come back into equilibrium, because we don't often practice those things. And yeah, it's counterintuitive, but it's incredibly effective.
Well, and you also mentioned the exhale breath as well. I learned from someone as anxiety attack work, which is you exhale for twice as long as you inhale.
Yes.
Effectively, with I'm visualizing like a waterfall like flowing down through this area. So does the exhale also like help? I mean, I'm thinking, because getting into infrared saunas is not like an easy regular strategy for me, but just kind of working with focusing on the exhale does seem to help calm the system a bit.
Yeah, you can get a far infrared sauna blanket for $140 on eBay. They're simple. Anyway, we mentioned this in the meditation yesterday, in the trauma-informed meditation yesterday, is that with the breathing, the balanced breathing of the inhale and the exhale being the same length is what we're aiming for. But with anxiety, we want to lengthen the exhale, and with depression, we want to lengthen the inhale. And usually double the exhale for anxiety, so it brings it down, and double the inhale for depression, because that increases the level of oxygenation and arousal. Yeah? So working with breath is incredibly valuable and incredibly simple. Yeah?
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yay.
Question.
Come on in.
Just a question about how to use this in constellations. I don't know if you're gonna talk more about this, or bringing it all back to constellation work, or like, for example, would bringing in regulation in a constellation with somebody who's dealing with trauma, would that be appropriate step? Have you done it? Just your guys' experiences.
Yeah, well, bringing in either regulation or repair would be very helpful. So if you look at the dynamics here, if there is a child with inappropriate bigness trying to hold the entire system, or feeling like they are holding the entire system, bringing in regulation, we've seen how that can play out. That can help them to let go of that and step into their proper place in relation to the others in the system, and in relation to their own desire to play, which is the most natural form of expression for a child. Right? When they're leaning on support, it's natural to want to go forward into the world and explore and play. Yeah?
Yeah, so bringing both, because I think with repair, that's what shifted. With regular,
Repair, when we look at the regulation journey, it started on the floor, hopeless, tolerating but hopeless. And it was only at the moment when repair came in that regulation actually stood up and took its place.
yes.
Yeah? So, and it depends on the system that you're working with. If there is no repair or restoration movements happening, bringing in repair could be helpful, just to make it included and available in the system. Yeah, yeah, because once the different elements of the system can be in relationship to repair, then they can actually start to practice it, and maybe repair can step out once things have moved to a more restorative place.
Can I share a thought, Jade?
Of course.
One thing that I find is that, I mean, you guys have actually the toolkit for doing all this trauma work already.
Right.
We're just labeling it now and giving you eyes for it. But there are times in constellations where you've done all the moves and something is missing.
Yeah.
I think in a recent constellation with you, Peter, I just had representations for safety in the room.
Yeah, that was immensely helpful.
Because I felt like, you know, either the evidence of the constellation proved this, or I just had the sense going in via the interview, or just some sense that this family system has such a deficit around this resource that the movements that I might initiate and might, you know, happen by seeing the dead or including the excluded one or the parent standing up or the confession of the violation, you know, all the moves that you guys know, isn't going to, for some reason, fill this hole, this thing. And I can feel either in the interview, the client made it really clear directly or indirectly, this is the thing they're missing in their life and it's not showing up in the constellation, or I just sort of sense it. That's the point where I call it a bit of a Hail Mary, because I prefer to get to things like safety in a more natural and organic way by the rearrangement of elements. But if what the system is really needing is safety and it's not showing up, then I may just take 4 people and say, well, you be the guardians of safety in the family or whatever.
And this was before the whole thing even started.
Well, that was because I knew you.
But that actually, like, for someone who is in a deregulated emotional state, bringing safety in and having everyone hold it regulated me. Like, it was immensely helpful.
Yeah, I just had everyone say you already have a role. Until I give you a new one, your role is the safe angels or something like that. I don't remember what I called it. The other time where this really came up, I remember there was, and I used this one a lot because it was a big learning, and then I'll turn it back over to Jade, was one where there was an especially violent murder of an infant in the family. And I was doing all the, you know, I see you, we see you, the murderer was taking responsibility, all those things, and it was not settling. It was not settling. And I just got 10 people to stand up and say, you are what can see this because the family can't. And from there, we were able to move forward. We needed the scene of this moment, and the family just was never going to have the resources. It didn't matter what I did. So that's the place where you can work with these kind of generics.
Yeah. So
I call them Hail Marys because I prefer the constellation to work without them.
Yeah.
But sometimes the family just doesn't have the resource no matter what you do.
Yeah. And
well, I'm not good enough in that moment or whatever it is. Yeah.
And that's where the wider community can bring the resources to the system that the family lacks. Yeah? And that whole thing of seeing what has been unseen, of having somebody see it, is immensely powerful. We often don't have to move things. We just have to see them.
Yeah.
And then they'll move themselves.
But I could see that would be the place in a constellation where like regulation ain't happening.
Yeah.
So you bring in a representation for regulation.
Yeah, and it's also where you tune into the system, but you're also attuned to yourself. If the thing that is needed is regulation, if the thing that is needed is safety, if just
repair or whatever, yeah.
Well, but this feels so.
Finish your thought.
Someone started a sentence.
I just said this feels so important. Just that's the question that I don't always think to ask. What is the system needing? Safety, but like that's not always an awareness that I have. So just having that in my forefront, it's like what's needed in the system.
What's missing?
Yeah, what's missing, but in the system and in a categorical safety, repair, belonging, like just it just landed differently.
And it's that whole concept of all trauma is loss of something that can be restored.
Yeah.
It can be loss of safety. It can be loss of home. It can be loss of belonging. It can be loss of repair. It can be loss of some kind of capacity, not necessarily loss of a person.
Jan Jakob Stam talks a lot about noticing what capacity systems have lost. Noticing that, because he's in the organizational sphere, so noticing capacity, so that's a good thing to add in.
Yeah. And the ultimate capacity in a trauma frame is the capacity for secure attachment and the capacity to reach.
Right.
Reach and lean. They're natural next steps from each other. Yeah.
Can you say that again? Sorry.
The capacities that are often absent in a trauma situation is the capacity for secure attachment. So the capacity to connect, to be able to turn toward and turn away without being too rigid in one or the other, and the capacity for, does anyone remember what I said?
Leaning and reaching.
Reaching and leaning. Reaching and leaning, that's it. I was reaching for the thought and I couldn't even. Yeah.
That's so helpful.
Wait, so I have two capacities listed, and I don't know what the sentence is. Sorry, brain's fried, I guess. But,
Those are the capacities that get lost in systems that are traumatized.
Oh, it's actually,
Yep.
they're kind of three, but two of them are kind of put together. Reaching and leaning are kind of put together. But
yeah,
secure attachment, reaching, leaning.
Yeah, turning towards and turning away without too much rigidity as well.
I made the note.
Yeah, that's
Building secure attachment.
Yeah. So the turning toward and turning away without rigidity is my spatial understanding of secure attachment. Yeah. Because insecure attachment is really rigid in one way or another and not having access to that range and fluidity.
Right, which is, the right, remember, the right to separate and still belong.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Number 3.
Yeah. And the reaching is very much connected with number 1 and number 2.
Right.
You're now reading to a list that most of the room doesn't know.
Yeah.
So I don't
That's
think
why I'm not really going there, but reaching is all you need. That was unintentional, sorry. Oh, lovely.
All you need is secure attachment.
It doesn't have quite the same.
You can say all you need is reach.
Leaning.
You need both. Reaching and leaning.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do we need a little bit of a break, Jade? What do you think?
Well, it sounds like we're having a karaoke break anyway, so
So,
yes, indeed. This has been really, really beautiful and insightful, but let's have a little break. Do you want to have a medium-sized break, like a 15-minute instead of 10?
Either one, 10, 15.
15 feels good.
Sure.
why don't we make it 13, and that takes us to 25 after.
Okay.
By this clock.
15 minutes.
Mid-break.
Okay.
My capacity is at max anyway.
All right, good.
I'm gonna pee. Is there anything we need to connect about it, or?
Really loving
I want to do basically the exact same exercise
Directly relatable to my own
With a different what?
map.
A and B.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Go pee. I'll be back.
Susan?
I can use that right now.
Yeah. Well, and it's a perspective on trauma that, like,
Yeah. So
You shouldn't have given me this.
we need like this.
I
Talk about
You
trauma
need-
at all.
I actually
I
don't
can
need
hear
it because
and I can't hear you, so whatever's going on,
can you hear me now?
This is sort of like
that helps, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is the microphone.
my
So
Between my back-
leaning equals right to exist. Reaching equals right to need.
Mm-hmm.
And then secure attachment equals the right to separate and still belong.
So attachment and individuation as a combo,
awesome.
Those pieces are great.
yeah, because the individuation is the separating, and every time we're talking about attachment and individuation, and almost all of the literature doesn't acknowledge that, and it's one of my pet peeves. Yeah? Because attachment issues come up when we're attempting to separate, and we do it in a messy fashion.
Right, right. So, I mean, the third organismic right is languaged, as I recall. The third organismic right.
Down. There we go. Now speak.
The third organismic right, as I recall it, is language, the right to separate and still belong. So the still belong is the attachment part, and then the right to separate is the individuation part.
Yeah, so you remember with the strange situation, we were looking at a balance between having a sense of home. Yeah. Right. And when you have that security in your sense of home, home is a combination of belonging and self. Yeah. When you have that, then you're free to explore and play and express. Knowing that you're not going to lose the one when you play with the other.
Yeah. Yeah.
Someone turn the fan back on.
Yeah.
Yeah, but just
Yeah.
for break.
I'm cool with it. It's
Okay.
just
10 more minutes.
Bye. Thank you.
no worries.
Oh, we should turn this one on too. Yes,
As you wish.
Yeah.
well, I do wish.
One more geeky piece, if you can hear me.
Yeah.
Is when there is that unresolved loss,
Yeah.
unresolved loss in previous generations.
Yeah.
So the parent wasn't available to respond to the child when they needed it.
Right. Right.
When you work with that unresolved loss trauma in previous generations,
That can flip the switch on what?
the right to exist
Oh, right.
in this generation.
Interesting.
If you weren't seen, held, soothed, responded to,
Right.
then it's easy to think you don't have a right to exist. And then once this is why working with the unresolved grief in the previous generation has such an effect on this one, because when you have the right to exist, then you can reach for the first time and actually
Yeah. I mean, of course, I'm making this about me.
We all do.
So, for me, I mean, I came in with a pretty heavy impaired right to exist, primarily because my father was already married when he met my mom, and they had an affair, and I'm the result. But I was basically the secret that shall not and was not spoken of the entirety of my life until like almost a couple of years ago, when my father's wife finally passed. And because everyone was keeping the secret, even though I was basically an open secret, I could not be officially acknowledged while she was alive. Right? So that was the impaired right to exist for me. So I don't know what that would mean in terms of upstream impairment, other than, I mean, my mom.
Yeah.
But I don't know. Anyway, it's just
Well, grief and secrets are just as powerful as each other.
Are just as powerful as what?
As each other.
Grief and secrets are just as powerful as each other.
Yes.
I'm not sure.
In terms, when there is an unresolved loss, or an unspoken secret, they both have a gravitational pull that fucks with us.
Yeah. Okay. Got it. Yeah. So a secret is like a form of a loss. Okay. Got it.
Absolutely. Yeah.
I saw your text, by the way.
Yeah, that's all right.
That's healing.
I forgot that I could unmute myself.
I'm gonna go get a coffee. Be back.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. Wow.
How you doing, Jumpy?
Oh. Why didn't someone apply all this to my family and just get it over with? Get to see them and they could see each other, and since they're not interested in what I know. Yeah. It always comes back to that. I have to fix them, and I can't.
Hi there.
So it's a wonderful cliche of all therapists. I'm sure they sit around laughing about these.
Yeah.
So they all became therapists to fix their families.
Couldn't be fixed. Most of them.
It's a presupposition of the, of taking on the task in the first place.
Right. Why
Otherwise, they could have become a, aerobics teacher or something.
Yeah.
So the nice thing about this work is we learn to bow more and more and more to that which we not only can't be fixed, but it's not our proper place to fix.
Right.
And then we can be in service to other people. It's kind of a nice collateral effect. If the sense of vocation survives being demoted from the job of healing our families. Some people don't, right? Once therapists figure out that that's what they got into it for, and it's not going to work, they say, "Oh, I'm going to become that surf instructor I always wanted to be."
Right. Right. I mean, maybe that should be my goal, to get small, just really get small. And maybe I've never let myself, and if I got really small,
then you could be really big.
Then I'll look at it and go, "Oh, I don't want to do that." Maybe.
Did you get my text, Leslie?
Now, I text now.
Yeah. I figured that's an easier way to convey information.
John V and I are just talking about how we need to heal ourselves out of a job.
Right. Yeah, I don't think if healing were ever complete, there'd be no therapists left.
Yeah.
That's one of the things I love about the wisdom, attachment, and love in trauma therapy is that it highlights the value that our own wounds bring to the presence that we have with our clients.
What are those lines about? The wounds giving off light?
All right. It's it's the
That's where the
cracks and imperfections.
That's where the light can get in.
That's where the light comes in. So, just to make sure.
Yeah.
I mean, this is that.
Yeah, that's A.
C is this.
No. That's A. C is I'm going to do the reveal at the end the same way I did repair.
Oh, I see. I got you. Just put an adjective in for A. Got it.
Yeah. So I will let you know afterwards what the last one is, the same way I did with repair.
Okay.
Exact same structure.
Okay. Okay.
And so someone else can have a practice.
We can even use the same cards. Wow. They just have letters on them.
Oh, you just put A and B. Nice.
So I assume that you do constellation workshops.
I did. I haven't been doing any recently because I've just started my PhD and I'm getting settled into that. But the second half of this year, I'm going to start again.
And is it going to be a different approach now that you've got this whole theme of the PhD and the research? And are you going to be saying I'm now going to be trying to do constellations a certain way because of this experience of the PhD?
I'm not actually using constellations with my PhD.
She's gone into another world. Tell her you're new.
I've gone into an adjacent world. So I was using constellations with chronic illness before, and I am more looking at medical and public health interventions for chronic.
You are now doing, we're doing or not doing?
That's the focus of my PhD. So
right.
Any constellation work that I do is separate and unaffected by my PhD.
And Jane, are you a therapist? So do you work with one-on-one?
I'm a psychotherapist, massage therapist, and constellation facilitator, but my original career was in IT and management consulting.
Oh, okay. And she's now a full-time grad student. So
okay. So not.
I've dropped all the things.
Australia makes that possible in a way that the United States does not. I am so jealous.
In terms of the financing of it?
Yeah.
Like Germany?
I don't know, but for PhD research, there is no tuition for domestic students, and they pay us a stipend to do it.
Oh, they pay you.
A little bit.
Oh, nice. I'm moving there now. Yeah, I know.
Australia, it's nothing compared to management consulting rates, but it's enough to get by.
Someone.
Yeah, I'm incredibly grateful for the changes that they made to the education and health system the year before I was born in this country.
Not happening here, that's for sure.
We're just waiting on Christina.
No worries.
Why don't you tell everybody again what do you? I was fascinated, but you can't ask follow-up questions. I'm really sorry because then you'll go down the dark hole of how fascinating. But just what is your PhD work now? Just tell them.
Okay, so I'm 2 months into my PhD.
2 months.
So I had a background in IT, mental health, and public health. and I'm now doing a PhD within the School of Medicine on chronic pain and hypermobility. Hypermobility is a measurable thing that seems to be comorbid with a lot of medically unexplained symptoms like chronic pain, chronic gastrointestinal, chronic autonomic dysregulation, chronic fatigue, things that traditional medicine has a difficult time explaining. So we're looking at so like it touches on suicide prevention, it touches on quality of life improvement and things like that, but like 20% of working age people have chronic pain, but 90 to 97% of hypermobile people have chronic pain. So we're starting out doing some surveys, interviews, focus groups with patients and clinicians to find out what is the biggest interruption to quality of life and treatment, and what they want and what works and what the clinicians assume the patient wants, and see if there's a mismatch between those two. And then depending on what comes out of that, we'll be doing some other work that's specific intervention for chronic pain, sleep, fatigue, and hopefully getting some change to policy and practice when it comes to all of those kinds of.
So
No, we're not going to go down the hole. Sorry. You can talk to her later.
We can talk another time. But yeah, I just started that.
For one definition.
Well, no. I just got one yes or no question. Is it going to involve constellations?
No.
Got it. Thank you. Thank you.
That's all right.
However,
You don't have to do it however now.
it is me, so it is systemic work. So I'm not specifically using the constellation modality, but I'm taking a systemic view, and I am bringing the lived experience of the patients and the clinicians, the phenomenological experience into the research.
Okay.
So, yeah, Jan Jacob's separation of the modalities of constellations, so stepping in and representing, and like you can use that on everything, but the thing that makes systemic work systemic is that we're looking at the systemic influence, and we're bringing a phenomenological lens, so the lived experience, the embodied intelligence, into our work.
Got it.
Yeah, so I'm definitely bringing that, though I'm not using a constellation modality.
Awesome. Thank you for the distinction.
One definition. Hypermobile. I've never heard that word before.
Yeah, this is our game. So and touch this there.
Oh.
I'm studying condition I have.
Nope, can't do that.
It's Ehlers-Danlos, right?
Ehlers-Danlos syndrome, that's the one.
Yeah. No, I know that one.
Okay. Thanks.
Okay.
Oh, excellent.
Yay, so that's
And the medical world is one that really needs systemic thinking.
Totally.
Holy
Yeah. So I'm kind of diving into the belly of that beast, and they're letting me.
In Australia. Not here.
Yeah.
No. We'll start out here where we already have like accessible universal healthcare.
Yeah.
Ouch. Yeah. The truth hurts.
Yeah, but the thing that I'm still pinching myself about is that they're letting me bring a phenomenological systemic lens. They're letting me do qualitative work. They're letting me bring the mental health and public health perspectives into the Faculty of Medicine, a School of Neuroscience. Like,
Yeah. Oh,
they're
wow.
basically letting me be a hippie in the lab.
Nice.
And they're very respectful of that, and they're respectful of bringing lived experience as well as looking outside their biomedical silo. They're welcoming it, and they're respectful of it. So yeah, I'm still
Only in a country where the medical system isn't run by corporations for profit. Yeah.
It isn't exclusively. We have
I'm
both.
actually,
Yeah.
I'm gonna
Yeah.
pull, because I can feel the systemic of this pulling us into it. And I'm gonna invite us to say, yay, you go girl.
Yeah.
And when you're ready, come and fix us. And you want to do Constellation, and I'm ready with cards, so talk to them about that.
Oh, wonderful. Okay. So do we know who, we're going to have another constellation with the whole group. And do we know who we're going to have practice facilitating in this case?
Okay. Yeah.
Was that just
hand?
touching yourself, Jeff?
Huh?
I just was to register if you raised your hand in addition to Christina. No, okay, that was just something, okay.
Okay. So Christina's facilitating. Excellent. So just like the last one, this is going to be archetypal. And we're going to start with two cards, two blind representatives that the facilitator and Leslie know what they're representing, but nobody else does. And just like the last one, we'll set up these two, and then we'll bring in a representative for mother, father, child, and go from there.
And do you make that call or do I make that call when we bring in the others?
It's all up to you.
Okay.
Yeah?
Mm-hmm.
But feel free to ask at any time. But you are leading this one.
And I do invite people to just try different roles.
Mhm.
Just try on some different things. She's already spilled the beans on the mother, father, child, so. So
But not these.
Hey, she doesn't have to bring them in that order.
Right, exactly.
So I could bring them blind, but it'll just be one of the three. Yeah.
Yeah, so we're wanting to see what the dynamic is with all of these ones.
You want one? Okay, we have one.
I'll take one.
Yeah.
All right.
So what's going on for you that you felt the need to move?
I that one, and then I felt a freeze, and got pulled to the ground, and now I feel a little dazed and probably a touch dissociated. Aware of that one, but kind of doing my best to not be connected to it.
What's your feeling?
I have kind of feeling into it. There's a way where I'm wanting to try to connect or establish rapport, but I get that it's in a very activated state, so I'm calibrating what way I could do that. And so what's occurring to me is to just kind of do this.
Does that have an impact on you?
I feel like I'm in my own world right now. Shock.
What is your feeling inside of yourself aside from the desire to connect with her?
Like I feel okay. Like I don't feel like yeah, I mean I feel okay. I don't feel unresourced exactly. I'm just clear. So the one thing I'm clear on is I want to have a connection with that one, but I'm also clear that right now that's not available, and it's probably not going to be available unless something shifts in the system.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm just kind of like
Waiting. Is that right?
Yep. And there are, if you want to see.
Okay. Is there another volunteer?
Before we bring someone else in, would we mind having those two look toward each other and see what that's like?
Sure.
I'm going to do it. I'm not doing this because I feel like this is not like I feel like I'm being pulled down. I'm actually choosing to do this, and I'm choosing to do it to try to make myself as safe and unthreatening as possible when I look over at that one.
And I feel like there's like a film or a layer. Like I see the physical thing, but I don't feel the connection. I don't actually feel threatened. I don't feel much of anything because I'm so shocked and dissociated. So I recognize that maneuver as like wanting to create safety for me. But yeah, I'm dazed.
So you see it, but it's not changing you.
I see it, but I don't feel connected to it. Like it's like my vision is either a little bit past it or a little bit in front of it. It's not in full focus.
Any response to that?
I've done all I can.
Okay. Yeah.
We're gonna know where to go. I don't know where my place is. I'm feeling unsettled. Should I go here? Should I?
Do you have any feeling about either of these two?
There's like a sense that I need to find my place first before I can connect. And I'm not finding it. I'm looking for it. That's the state I'm looking for.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just so unsettled.
Yeah.
So as that one came in, I'm like, is this a threat or not a threat? Threat or not a threat? Threat or not a threat? And the closer it is, and when it was talking, I felt really activated. And when it stepped out, I felt relief.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm trying to calibrate if this is threatening or not. I'm just feeling really hypervigilant about my safety.
So you feel kind of hypervigilant, but you're not sure that it's actually a threat.
I am in the process of attempting to determine it.
Mm-hmm.
And when it talks, I feel a physical response, which I can't tell if it's threatening or not.
Mm-hmm.
But my body feels threatened. And I feel safer when it went there.
Mm-hmm.
Proximity seems to be the activating trigger.
Him talking about it makes me want to come closer.
Mm-hmm.
You talking about it, it feels like it diffused it a tiny bit. I might be open to that.
And how is this distance for you?
I'm very aware of the presence.
Do you feel threatened?
Not yet.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I kind of want to say, look, like, I'm safe. I'm safe.
Go ahead and say that. Say it in space.
I'm safe.
It doesn't feel that. It doesn't feel true or not true. It feels yet to be proven.
Mm-hmm. Any response to that from you?
No, I mean, it's interesting. There was a very small way in which the system felt a little bit better when this one came in, but not in any way that mattered as far as what feels available to me. So I'm just kind of like, not enough has changed for another option to be on the.
Are you still hoping for connection with this one?
That's a good question. That desire has kind of waned a little bit. Now I'm just sort of, I have less attention on that one now. I'm just kind of like waiting for something to happen, I don't know what, and then something more might be available for me.
Where's your attention right now?
Kind of nowhere. Ceiling.
In the sky.
Yeah. But I don't feel dead, like I just feel like, something that's kind of, effectively sealed away. Like I'm something that could be useful at some point, but the proper ingredients or components aren't available or they're not in place or something.
Okay. Yeah.
So I feel activated with this one, and I feel that sort of disembodied, checked out when that one talks. So just noticing, and when this one sat down, I feel split between the hyper awareness here and the checked out experience there.
Any change for you?
Just I wanted to get closer.
Okay.
I'm aware that that's not the option.
Sitting is safer. Sitting feels a little safer.
But I feel like I want to even go. Yeah.
So this position is kind of we can hold this for a little while. Both.
Yeah, but I want to get closer.
You want to get
Like,
closer, you don't.
But I'm like, yeah, I'm not going to. But I have a like pull towards this one.
Touching was very threatening.
I don't want to give him a hug.
No.
You want that.
I
but
want
you're
that. Yeah.
restraining yourself.
Yeah.
Please.
Okay, I'm going to bring in another one.
What am I gonna do?
Yeah, this one. Who's the next volunteer?
And Jeff, don't be the last one, because that will make you pivotal elements. You either have to be next or the one after that.
The next person has to stand.
I feel very heavy, rooted right here.
Who's got your attention right now?
Nobody really.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, if I pay attention, I'm aware of them, but
Do you feel rooted? Do you have any other feelings inside?
no, my feet, I feel a lot of pressure downward on my feet at times.
Mm. What's going on with you?
Just feels good here.
Mm-hmm.
I exhaled when he came in, and I was like, oh, yeah. This feels like a proper place that I couldn't find.
So you found a proper place.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And this more so than this.
Yeah.
Okay. And over here?
I also felt a momentary relief when that one came in. And then it sort of changed, and now I feel like the weight. And the best description is like, how do I describe this? I feel like I'm being turned inside out, like I'm being squished or repressed into my interior. So I feel like I'm kind of like, the weight is so much that I'm like withdrawing inside.
And is this in connection with the report about the weight over here, or is this like your own personal experience?
It's what I can only speak to my own experience.
Mm-hmm.
That's what my experience is.
Okay. Here?
Well, something feels a little,
Do you have a response to that move?
not entirely comfortable with it.
Not comfortable with it.
Not grossly so, but
Mm-hmm. Enough so that you'll tolerate it, it seems.
yeah, it's not like I can't stand it. It's just like, I don't know.
Mm-hmm. And how do you feel towards this one?
Not really much aware.
Do you see this one?
Obviously, I can see if I look, but it doesn't have much attention.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
So when that one moved to do that, I got my attention.
I'm actually less fixated on inside myself, and I'm more like, I feel like I'm trying to understand or trying to. There's a little bit of like, is that okay? But also like, what is that? Like it's got my interest.
Yeah.
My attention's gone right to the middle there, like there should be something there.
Should be something there. Let's bring in the last one. One more.
You want it? Not particularly. Okay.
Okay. Externalizing.
I'm regulating.
Yeah.
Stomachs.
How are you doing there? Can you tell us a little bit about your experience?
I'm running the energy.
Wow.
I'm just letting it all connect through me.
The energy of
These two.
uh-huh. How does it feel, the energy of them?
I like both of them.
Mm-hmm. This one over here, how do you feel about this change?
Good. It feels even better place for me.
So more have you now found your place?
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. An improvement from before.
And here?
I guess I'm sort of neutral to it. It's not good or bad.
Mm-hmm.
Well, it's taking my attention from there.
So your attention has shifted.
Yeah, my attention's here, but I don't have any particular feeling about whether it's good or bad.
Mm-hmm. Can you look at them? It's just kind of a manual and see how that feels.
I'm not really getting anything.
No change. What about from you?
Well, I kind of feel like I want to not just do this. I kind of want
Try it and see if they respond.
to do this. You see.
I can see. I can ask you your experience, or I can report what I'm seeing. What's your experience over here?
I'm willing to go for it. I trust this one, so
Mm-hmm.
it's like, yeah, okay.
Any changes here? Any change as you felt this movement?
I'm too firmly
Okay.
rooted here
Rooted.
to move.
Mm-hmm.
Too heavy to move.
Mm-hmm.
Like a block of granite with feet.
Okay. There was a lot of movement over here.
Yeah.
What's going on?
So then that one mentioned the thing in the middle of the room, and I'm like, well, I'd rather get away from that. So I moved to the edge, felt more comfortable. And then when the new one came in, I just got really tired. And I would actually say like relaxed, like someone turned off the vigilance switch, and now I feel like I'm taking a break. And those three have most of my attention now.
Mhm.
The one in the middle, more so.
Mm.
And I'm just enjoying the rest.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Because the one in the middle brought you relief.
When it came in, I felt
Uh-huh.
that switch. Yeah.
And can you repeat? Did you say you had a feeling about something in here?
You said that there was something in the middle,
Uh-huh.
so I felt like I needed to get away from it.
Getting away from it.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Definitely noticing that, like, that one come in and felt heavy, and I felt heavy, and the point of the middle, I'm somehow direct relating to whatever that person's experience is right now.
That person being
That blue shirt.
blue shirt. Okay.
The standing blue shirt.
The rooted.
Standing.
Yeah.
Rooted
Standing blue.
shirt.
Yeah. You both have used the rooted term.
But I honestly feel like I'm affected by everything, so
Mhm.
it's not really useful.
Okay. And this one on the floor. Things have changed around you. Have you felt them?
No, I mean, no, I mean, I'm just glad nothing has really shifted.
Nothing has shifted.
No.
Earlier your focus was on the ceiling, and now I see your focus is on the floor. Is there...
My focus is just internal.
Okay. Well, I feel compelled to bring in what's missing. Is there something else that you see to do here?
Bringing in what's missing seems like exactly what I'd do if I were there.
Okay.
So are you, is this a role you're assigning, Jade?
Well,
Do we get to review it?
I had just written down the role I was going to assign when the standing blue shirt says my focus is completely there. So I'm assuming that they're the same thing, but I'm going to remove what I assigned. And whatever the blue shirt was focused on, standing blue shirt was focused on that thinks to be there, bring that in.
Yeah. Should I do the reveal for everybody first, or bring in the thing? Or just...
No, do the reveal first.
Okay. So I'll need to see the cards that the two of you have. And then child, father, mother.
So sorry.
Which was?
Who's
Sorry,
who?
I was looking over there, so when you said
So
Child, father, mother.
Interesting.
Makes sense.
The child in white, father in gray, and mother in blue.
Okay. Loss, support.
So Guy is lost, Peter is support.
Support.
Mm-hmm.
She's lost.
He's lost?
Yes.
Oh, Peter is support.
Mm-hmm.
Oh.
It feels so effective.
Well, something's missing, it seems.
Because something is missing.
May I call you in? Yes. To be something, what's missing?
Okay.
Well, specifically the thing that he
Yeah.
sees in the middle.
Exactly.
Okay.
Can I do that? Can I direct her to be in the middle? And
Yeah. That's a good place to start out.
Would you
So I'm sure
take this
father.
spot?
Father.
That's mother. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's child, father, mother. So it's what
That's
the
right.
mother saw.
Yeah.
Okay.
So the mother is blue shirt. And something.
Yeah. I don't know what this one is, but there's like, it feels like it introduced an element of hope into the system. So, yeah.
Thank you.
Mother, what's your response to this addition?
I like it.
Can you say a little more about it? What do you like? What is the feeling of liking it?
It's comfortable. Just have it there.
Mm-hmm. How about you, Father?
It's like it came to life. Everything came to life. There was so much more movement suddenly, and then this one sat down and my role's the same.
Mm-hmm.
I still have to be here for this one.
Mm-hmm.
And I was wondering if it's okay that just I see this. And then I thought, oh no, that's just a waste of time. This is where the energy is. And
So you question if it's okay if you see this?
well, whether that's effective for me to see, if it helps, when I was standing really strong, I was really focused up. Like support. I'm a kind of support and a connection to something bigger than all of us. But they're all on the ground. So I'm like, yeah. So I have to stand up and stay up for her.
It sounds like maybe you're holding her up in your own experience. Is that right?
Yeah, well, it doesn't feel that energetically like I'm really holding her up. I'm just, well, I don't know, keeping her in place, not propping her up, but keeping her in this place.
Okay. Yeah.
I feel more like he's holding on to me than holding me up.
Oh. Uh-huh.
Mm-hmm. Keeping this one present in some way that may not be entirely voluntary.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I'm seeing these shifts happening here and this
Yeah.
connection. What's going on?
So when this one came in, the very first response like, should I kick it? And then I thought it might be more appropriate just to make a foot connection, which felt good. I got really happy when everybody started to get on the floor for
With
some
you.
reason.
Uh-huh.
So then hearing the two of them kind of talk about their dynamic woke up in me, and I'm like, oh, we need to get our shit together. Like I was sort of like hearing that, I'm like, you think you're this, and you think you're this, and I'm like, oh no, this just doesn't sound right. Like it just didn't feel. I'm like, I feel some level of what is it? It's like a I see like an awareness of proper structure. So I felt like I should sit up a little bit, but there's a little bit of like, oh, I guess I need to step in here. So yeah.
Okay. So you're a little activated now.
In a awake and more supportive. I don't feel like I'm not none of the trigger stuff. But
And
again,
this feels okay.
This feels perfect.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, I'm very happy to be connected to this, and just not completely enveloped, but connected to.
Right.
Yeah.
Child.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see. You found a spot down here.
Yeah, I feel like I'm like in my room, in my bed, sleeping.
Okay.
And it's good. It feels good. It feels like
You feel a connection with this one?
no.
No, it's just
I just
circumstantial that
like
you're
being
touching.
like what at my parents' feet. Yeah. I'm not noticing this.
Okay. Something. What's missing? How you doing?
I don't know what I'm representing. There's not
a whole lot of the content. It just seemed like, okay, I'm here. And then it seemed like I needed to be a little bit closer than I was. But when I moved closer, then I lost the foot connection.
Mhm.
That didn't seem right, so I needed to sort of reconnect with this. Like, I feel like I'm supposed to be connected to this one. But that's like as much content as there is that I'm aware of. So.
I have a wondering about what she is. Can I wonder that out loud, or?
You can wonder out loud.
Okay. I wonder if you're the ancestors on the mother's lineage, or some ancestor. What? That which was lost or excluded.
Oh,
That's
was intended?
that's what I'd written down as to intentionally bring in. And as soon as I wrote it, the mother indicated towards the floor.
Well, I'll say that that's my experience of this one is like it's the thing that we're all organized around, not the loss, but the thing that the loss is about in the greater family system, which doesn't necessarily have to do with the child, but is impacting the child. It's more connected to that. That's what it feels.
I am curious about this one you just spoke, having an awareness of the structure.
Yeah.
And if you were to act on that, what would happen?
Oh, that's really interesting.
What a great move.
Yeah, if I were to act on that, what would I do?
Allow the wisdom of the system to come through.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Move.
Where?
Somewhere closer. Yeah, I think connection over there next to the loss.
No, I get in between here.
So as this is rearranging, just one thing that I pay close attention to is what puts itself in the center of the circle and how that changes.
That's helpful.
So at first, loss was in the center, the one that is currently lying down. And then that which was lost was right in the center. And now we have support right in the center.
Oh, interesting. I was thinking loss was still in the center because it was in the center of the group. But you're saying it's in the center of the room.
In the center of the circle, in the center of the field. So that phrasing that just came up about this is what this family system is organizing itself around. It has shifted to organizing around something that was lost to organizing around the representative for support right now. Yeah? So let's just settle in and check in with this change.
I mean, I'll just go briefly say I'm not sure. I feel like this is a good spot. I feel like I want to help with the loss. I'm not sure what it's appropriate or best or useful location is, except for just to be here with them, maybe so they can be with it. Honestly, I don't know that I need to change any of that. And so if I could just be here, then they can do what they need to do with it.
Yeah. I feel a lot more focused now on the four of us and like this is working in a different way and making more sense, making us more bonded and more of a family.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, it's like this is sort of served a purpose, and it's not as important now. Now that this is in the family again, that which was lost.
Mm-hmm. I feel like with the loss, there's no room for me. I feel like it's like taking up all the room. And
Yeah.
I don't know.
Okay, Ross. Are you, is it okay if I ask Ross a question?
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Which people shall I ask?
Would you like to come hang out with me over here? Do you feel like that's available?
I'm very comfy right here.
Okay.
Like,
But then there's no room.
this just feels very. Yeah, I don't know.
So I'm curious about the mother. How have these shifts affected you?
Well, having this one here feels really good, but I didn't mean,
This one.
I didn't, yeah, this one.
Uh-huh.
But I didn't want that to push the other one away.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not sure this is my right place. Like I feel like I'm being held here.
Mm.
Um,
What would you like to do?
I don't really know. Like I wasn't going to move from there. I'm not sure. But it's hard to move because I think this one wants to hold me here.
Mm-hmm. I want to encourage you to move and see how it impacts the system.
Before we do that, we currently have loss on the floor and that which was lost being held with the mother.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Could we ask those two to actually connect and either physically connect or make eye contact?
What's this one here?
Yeah.
He's lost.
Yeah, why would I do that? Why would I connect with that which is lost? That wouldn't help anything. Have mercy.
I'm curious what would happen if the mother made physical contact with the loss.
I don't want to.
Mm-hmm.
You said you don't want to? You said you don't want to?
So I'm kind of wanting to, I'm feeling a little less supportive and stable.
Okay.
I kind of want to take this one over here. So, yeah, would you guys come with me? Just to hang out over most of the frame. I'll stand here and just kind of be out in the middle. I don't feel like that's really all about you.
I feel further away from my parents.
It's temporary.
All this stuff going on around me makes me want to curl up in a ball. It's like I don't feel resourced to do anything, but I feel like I don't want anything to do with any of it.
I want it to go away.
My hit is to, well, correct me if I'm wrong. Mother, can you say to Loss, I don't want to see you.
I don't want to see you.
Done.
But I do want to see you. I do see you.
But I do see you.
I do see you. I would kick it to the curb if I could.
Mm-hmm.
Does
You
it kick him?
can't. You can't kick it to the curb. You can only see it. Does that shift anything for you?
What?
Just acknowledging that you see it and you can't kick it.
Resentful.
Mm-hmm.
I'm unhappy that these two are far away.
You're happy that these two are far away?
Unhappy that they're far
Oh,
away.
unhappy. What's going on down here? Do you see each other?
Mm-hmm. Makes me unsafe though.
I feel like I would leave the room.
Mm-hmm.
I just want to say we need you.
Mm-hmm.
You're important. Lie, 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 lie.
Loss, can you say, I don't feel that I belong here, if that's true?
It's not that I don't belong here. It's nobody wants me, and I don't blame them.
Okay. Can you say nobody wants me?
Nobody wants me. I understand.
Mm-hmm. So, response with you, Kat?
Did someone say we need you before that?
Yeah,
I
support did.
support. I did.
So perhaps the sentence that Loss could say could be nobody wants me, but they need me.
No, they don't need me.
He said he didn't believe that.
No.
He didn't believe that.
Specifically said lie, 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 lie. That was the actual response.
Yeah.
Okay. You got any supportive healing sentences that come up at this point? Anyone?
I mean,
Or movements?
I mean, So what I feel like I'm noticing here is there's a lot of focus on the loss, but we have the one that was lost here. And I feel like loss is not going to change until we include this one here in a way that helps shift it.
I have an idea.
Yeah.
This may not have been your natural inclination, but I'd like to put you support with Actually, even in between mother and father.
I feel really artificially located here. I feel like I'm available in the whole system, and I just didn't want to leave this one completely unsupported. So maybe I could put a poster behind.
Let's do that.
Because I really do feel like I need to be everywhere.
I think we need to
I
have more of you.
I only have one body. It's really,
Mhm.
it's really limiting.
Yeah.
I do think support was onto something there, though, that until the excluded lost ones get big and take their proper place in a bigger way, loss is probably going to stay over on the other side of the room.
Mm-hmm.
Because so much focus is being placed on lost, but the lost ones are right here.
Mm-hmm. But when the last one was connected, it was like overly held.
I just want to say, I see you.
Mm.
We'll start with that.
Seems like some feelings are happening with Dad.
Where have I been?
Where have I been?
Yeah, whoa. Jesus. We need you to come home to us.
Are you talking to this one or this one?
She heard it. It went right flipping over her.
I was like, what about me?
Yeah.
I'm your child. I'm
Right?
like
So
exiled.
you're really related to what is lost.
I feel like she's needed. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I feel like I'm exiled and there's no space for me because you guys occupied with loss and whatever was
Yeah.
lost, but it's
Mhm.
like, what about me?
Right.
Is there more openness to connect here now?
No.
That's not.
I
where to
felt
go.
like this is what my parents should do. That's not my
Right.
job.
Mhm.
I'm a kid.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So we
I feel like
need you. We need you.
you guys need to do some work before I can come back.
Mom.
That's my feeling.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Mom, any response to support or hearing these words?
I wanted both of them back the whole time.
You wanted both of whom?
Both of these.
Both of these?
Okay.
Could you move towards them?
Or even if they look at me and say, we want you home, that would be helpful.
Uh-huh. I think some movement started here. I'd like to see how that plays out.
Okay.
All right.
We want you home. Both.
Something's off for me.
Yeah, me too. It doesn't feel.
Can you say to this one,
You are gone, and I miss you.
You're gone and I miss you.
And can you say to this one, you're here and I love you.
You're here and I love you.
How did that resonate with you, Mother? You.
Yeah, it's true. Doesn't mean I still don't want this one. Just because it's gone. I still want it.
can you say, I have to let you go to get my family back?
Mm,
What about that is not resonating with you?
I want this one to remain part of the family. I don't want to just disappear, be lost again.
Father, can you say to Mother,
We'll remember her together.
We'll remember her together. We'll keep a place for her in our hearts.
And Father, can you say to the child, I love you, I want you back.
I love you. I want you back.
She was gone, so.
Okay. Why are you shaking your head?
This doesn't feel right. I feel like everything out there is excluded.
Mm-hmm.
Well,
Yeah.
yeah. Now there's been a shift.
And like until they're included, I feel like this is not sound.
Mhm. I'd like to bring these three over there. But support is here with the child because this is the parents' work. This is not to abandon the child. This is for the parents to do the work they need to do.
Okay.
Do we agree to take a look at loss for the benefit of the child?
Don't want to.
You don't want to? I'm going to ask Father and support to go ahead and go over there with loss and the lost one. Lost ones. How is it for you to come over here? Oh, well.
I just felt the need to be with this one.
Mm-hmm.
Otherwise, well, it still feels like something else is missing, not just me.
You okay? Yeah, go ahead. Something is still missing. What do you guys think? I'm talking to Leslie and
I'm gonna start out with Jade.
Jade.
Yep. So we brought in something that was not identified. It was that which was lost or excluded.
Mm-hmm.
For something that has been missing from the system to feel like there's something missing, that kind of makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And we're not trying to move to a total place of resolution with this.
Mm-hmm.
Thinking with a lot of these movements, if we can take a beat and let things sit and let things unfold rather than trying to push it to something that feels perfect.
Okay. So take it slower.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So where it was a moment ago when we had mother and father and support with the child here,
Mm-hmm.
and loss and that which was lost, seen, acknowledged, and no longer in between, like in the center of the system.
Mm-hmm.
It may not be perfect, but it's a step.
Okay.
I need to be.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm with you. Let's bring them back, and we're going to wrap it up.
Well, I just want to add one other
Yes.
observation, just to see if this is useful. I think what everyone noticed is that the ones who were excluded and lost were entangled with the child. There's confusion in the family about who's who.
Yeah.
On manual, could we just ask the lost ones to stand up? They haven't done that yet.
Mm.
Just so we can have them in their proper size in the system.
Okay.
And just see if the lost can stay where it is, but the lost ones, and it might affect you, lost, which would be awesome. But the lost ones are actually the biggest ones in the system, presumably. And at least we can end this confusion between the smallest one in the system and the ones who are the biggest in the system. That's just the one observation I wanted to just bring in.
Yeah, thank you. I think we're going to wrap this up shortly then from this position. But we'll say some sentences first. Give it a moment.
She's building little castles out of stones, by the way.
One just collapsed.
I
love
I feel like an area of effect too. I'm circling this.
Oh, you're back.
Yeah.
My work is really here.
Can you say to the whole system, I'm here to support you?
I'm here to support you, all of you.
Can you say to your parents, I need my parents?
I need my parents.
And Dad, can you say to Mom, I'll help you, and our child has to come first?
I'll help you, and our child has to come first.
My reaction to that is I'm not the ones that left. I stayed here. I was really angry that they left.
That the last one's left.
That everybody left.
Can you say, I'm really angry that everybody left?
I'm really angry that everybody just left.
And I need to take care of my family. And both be true.
Yeah, I need to take care of my family.
And both are true.
Yeah, I mean, I was here left to do it alone.
So can I just say, our place is here. We went, and that's not where we belong. Our place is here. That's the way I feel.
And just so that we can include the energy of this properly, can you turn around and look at the one over there? And so, in really clean, simple, non-angry language, I was angry that everybody left.
I was angry that everybody left.
Can you respond if it feels right? Live your life.
Maybe a little out ahead.
That's too much. Sorry.
I was just going to say, I hear you.
Okay.
That feels good. Okay.
You kick the tires to make sure that things are strong and tough, right?
Okay.
Do we think that's a nice place to wrap this up?
Yes.
I'm not sure nice place is the but it's a
Okay.
place.
Yes.
Better place.
And enough place.
And enough place.
Okay.
Thanks, everyone. Make sure you step out of your roles and you give back your cards.
And thank you, Guy,
Yeah,
for being
do
in
a
the tough
me,
role.
I don't know. That looks like guys. I'm sorry.
It felt exquisitely isomorphic.
I know. The minute I saw you go down, Guy, I went, I think Guy got the Lost card, and of course he did. He's only been talking about Lost constantly for the last 48 hours. Yeah.
It didn't feel good to me to leave you out there, but
It's just what was true.
yeah.
Yeah.
It was energy was really hard to move.
Well, even the dynamics with the mom and the dad and the lost one, I mean, it was all seemingly very isomorphic for me personally. But what else? Fascinating.
Is that a card to give back, Jeff?
Yeah.
You're all
I
done
give
being
back.
mom?
I mean,
Yeah.
We don't want to be taking them with us.
Too late.
that definitely highlights the dynamic of when the loss is the focal point in the system and the kid is like, hey, wait a minute, where's my spot here, right? I mean, that whole like interrupted nurturing place.
Yeah, there's no space for
Yeah.
a kid. Everybody's focused on the loss and what's been lost.
Right.
And so there's no space.
Yeah. From the very, very beginning when the child entered the system, they were unsettled and couldn't find their place.
Yeah.
They wanted to find a place to connect and then they couldn't find where it is. And they tried to be with the support. They tried to be with the mum, but the mum wasn't available, so it felt better being with the dad. You know? But they were constantly trying to find their place. And the loss made that very difficult.
Can I just say that the experience of the support at the beginning feels very much like the sympathetic nervous system, fight or flight panic. Like I felt.
That's what I thought you were.
That's what I thought. Yeah, I felt that danger awareness, and once all of the family got included, then I could relax, which was interesting.
The other piece that's really resonating for me, and I'm going to leave chewing on a bit, is we've been using this word loss, which is, a metaphor meaning for, I've lost my glass, I can't find my glass, or, I've lost my money, or, I've lost my father, I've lost my land. But when the mother said, you all left me, I went, oh, that's the meaning in a child's system. It's not I lost something, it's they or it left me.
Abandonment.
And so that felt like the fractal in the system that we finally got a hold of right at the end, is that the meaning, and it's got anger in it, Loss is sad, loss is grief, but being left makes us mad. And even loss was quite cranky, was expressing, you don't want me around here, you say you need me, but you don't need me. So this rage at being left or abandoned feels like perhaps a deeper thread worth further exploration. So I really heard, and it showed up concretely in feeling like these two people left you, but the deeper meaning in the system was coming through then. So that's something I'm going to be chewing on a little bit.
I wondered about grief rather than loss.
Right. I was curious about that too.
Yeah.
Well, it felt like what was lost, like the parents were looking at it and including, it wasn't quite hitting the spot. I was wondering about that because we were, lost was here, everybody was looking at it, like what was lost was right next to mom, but then didn't feel like it was right place. So I had a question, like, why isn't that working?
I had that question too.
Yeah, as facilitator.
But it's like occupying too much space. So anyway, you guys have any.
Well, and again, for me, the guess still is getting the lost or excluded ones into their proper place, into their proper stature and place in the system.
Which was one?
Well, we didn't
didn't
really
know.
get there,
Okay.
but we were, at least having them stand up,
I see.
Yeah.
right?
At least having the big ones be big and the little be little is a first step.
But until they can take their proper place in the system, then losses can continue to function and as a distortion field in the system in a way. Anyway, that was what I was chewing on. That's what I would have played with next.
Yeah.
If you're thinking, I'm wondering as a facilitator what I would have played with next.
Yeah. Well, with the other one, bringing repair in seemed to change almost everything.
Yeah, like instant solution.
Yeah. And loss isn't that simple to repair.
Right.
There are layers of, like that whole concept, Leslie, of lost versus it left. I'm going to be chewing on that too.
Yeah.
That is enormous. And repairing the space of the grief and sadness that goes with loss, there's also the layer of repair of the rage and unfairness of it left.
Structurally, it's a very large representation. It's got like so many layers that really nominalize as loss, but like grief. It's like I probably have the 7 stages of like all of them. I think are probably in there.
Denial.
And there's such a powerlessness to it left.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It seemed like a real central part from my perspective was like getting the movement from the mother so that things could get in the right place and like the child could be re-included. And I wonder, is there a place that you would have explored the rage? Would you have gone there and somehow played it out or tried to move that somehow? Because it had just opened up and that seemed true, that there was this rage that kept a lid on the mother.
The place where you started to work with that, very cleanly saying, you are gone and you are here. Right? Rather than saying things like doubling up and saying, well, you are gone and this is how I feel and this is what I want to move and this is whatever the next step is, I probably would have stayed for a moment in acknowledging what is, which is you are gone and you are here. And then seeing what moved in the mother as a result of that acknowledgement. Rather than trying to push it with, you are gone and this is the feeling that I have. Yeah? Just letting that, acknowledging what is and being in that space for a breath or two afterwards to let the acknowledgement bring some movement into the system. Does that make sense?
It does. And, it felt like I was giving some space for the reaction, but I may have had a distorted sense of the amount of time and space I was giving.
Yeah. My little story, when my son was 3-4 years old, he loved comedy. And he's like, what makes things funny? He wanted to figure out what makes things funny so he could construct jokes. And we were talking about that, and he'd get a laugh, and then he'd want to get another laugh. And so he'd say, the pilot was a tomato, and they had a spatula. And
I have to say, that's kind of funny.
I get that. Actually, you're tracking my language right now. Like that makes perfect sense to me.
I might have told him that anything's funny if it has a tomato, a walrus, or a spatula in it, and go to play with that with all his punchlines. He kept bringing "and" into his punchlines. He wanted to milk it.
Yeah.
And I had to make a little rule of thumb for him. It's like no "ands" in a punchline.
It's a great.
And I like to into healing sentences. No "ands" in a healing sentence.
I love that.
If we're looking at something and acknowledging what is, you are here, you are gone.
Yeah.
And let the "and" unfold.
What about you left and it hurt?
That's not really an "and."
But it is. Technically.
It's a literal and,
Well,
but she's a second,
but
it's not a second idea,
Yeah.
which I think she's getting at. One idea.
Yeah, but you left and it hurt both happened in the same moment from the same event.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You left, and as a consequence, it hurt, and then I missed you and I want you back.
Right. Yeah.
I miss you and I want you back is after the "and."
Yeah.
Yeah. It hurt is in the same moment.
Yeah. That's helpful.
I want to acknowledge that it is 13 of. And I want to give the group a chance to do kind of a last check-in and see how everybody is and whether you have an inquiry or a last, just for everyone to kind of check in on how they are and send them off into this evening, which is your afternoon.
Well, happy Trauma and Attachment Weekend, everybody.
Oh, God. Someone has to make the Hallmark card of that.
Yeah, Trauma Attachment Weekend. Let's have it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We could all
Happy bagels.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
I'm just hoping that as this all simmers, that you've had a nice balance of intellectual and embodied learning this weekend, and that the subtle links between loss and support, the unknown and desire, and turning towards and turning away, and all of those things, how they relate to and are enmeshed with the experience of trauma and attachment, and so that you guys can get a feel for that, because everything that you're doing in Constellations, you're already doing the stuff that works. This is just giving you a lens of some of the other nuanced things that it's working on. You do it. So I hope that's
It's been
helpful a little.
very
it's been immensely illuminating.
yeah.
Yeah.
and edifying.
What was that word?
Edifying.
Edifying. Okay, got it.
Well, and it's funny as not a therapist or a counselor, having my first foray into personal growth and change work, being NLP Marin, the emphasis on client care and noticing and calibration, yes, rapport, yes, but the emphasis on how to help create safety on the deeper levels, because we don't really acknowledge trauma quite the same way that the psychological world does. This was very helpful for me to have a framework and some tools for how to help generate even more safety and to understand a little bit about what's going on with that for myself and also for the people I work with. So very helpful, new perspectives that I feel like really will integrate very well into the work. So thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Any more check-ins with everyone?
Oh, to get one from everybody before we go.
I'd love to get one from everyone, just checking in how you are, if there's any takeaways, and if anybody is wobbly, please reach out to Leslie or myself as needed.
And each other to the degree that feels.
Yeah.
What's on my mind right now is that has been a lot of learning this weekend. What's up for me right now that we learned a new type of constellation, which is archetypal constellation
or generic
that we haven't done. And we had 2 examples of it. One which was nice and smooth, and the other one which was a little rocky. And I'm kind of grappling still with the idea of generalized constellation because it seems like we are facilitating a system. It's a general system, but it's specific in a way that it has its own story. Like in this constellation, a loss was on mom's side, and another system could be on dad's side. So it's general and specific in a way. I'm trying to it's very useful for learning, but as far as movement, it feels harder to do. So I'm trying to understand the difference and, all that stuff, like why this one worked and why this one was harder. And
I'm just going to offer a quick thought because you're making me think about this. My guess, because Jade noticed this morning, I think, or yesterday morning, I don't remember. But what I think these 2 constellations diagnosed in the group is loss is what's up in the system of this group. Like that's what's alive and moving and open for examination and incomplete. So we were doing our constellation, which means you don't have a generic answer. We wrestled with it for another hour, or we might have come to a more whatever. But I just to sort of like maybe that was our constellation, and that's why it had more of the messiness that constellations generally have because you're in the muck of a system. So I just for you to go off and think and be, with yourself in that.
So that's the word I was thinking, messiness. And I was thinking maybe we put that on the list of desires for the last weekend. Just some sitting with messiness, allowing messiness. Like not expecting the Hallmark moment at the end of the constellation.
Yeah, so you had that experience as well today, yeah.
The other piece that I noticed is that for the first one, I was very clear that we are just looking at the dynamics and saying yes to how it is as a learning experience. And for the second one, I wasn't that clear with that. And we moved into the trying to resolve and what we usually do with the client's constellation rather than having it as we're looking at the dynamics and saying yes and learning from that. So it helps to have the clarity going in.
What's our goal? Yeah.
I generally use archetypal ones more for learning.
And that's why I say I think we fell into our constellation. Right?
Learning.
Yeah.
You guys have got a strong pull.
I learned a lot this weekend, and especially right here, having an opportunity to facilitate was a good reminder of something I already kind of knew about myself, which is like, don't drive a Mack truck to solutions. Like I want so much to be like, include and like look and heal. And it's like, stop.
Get the small one small and the big one's big.
Yeah, like do it. And
I've never done
that. I have to be really careful about that and like take my time. I really felt like I was taking my time, but like even more.
Yeah, well, I didn't realize how much I slow things down until Leslie mentioned that this morning. Like, oh yeah, I do. Okay. Find one of the most valuable things in your facilitator stance is to not begin with the end in mind.
Right.
Let yourself know.
Is to, like, we're wanting to look at the system as it is now. If the big ones are small and the small ones are big, we want to give space to look at that and acknowledge it as it is now, and actually take a breather in that awareness before we move to any resolution.
Yeah. Mhm.
Remember my rule of thumb: if the system is resisting a resource or a resolution, something hasn't been included yet. It's a really good rule of thumb.
Yeah, and that was a little frustrating because I was like, I included the unincluded, you know? What more do you want? Another one?
And by that I don't mean a representation, of course. It could be someone saying a primary statement, it could be a feeling, it could be a movement, but something hasn't been included.
It could be including the resistance to change.
It could be
Maybe that was it. I mean, I felt it so strong, like something is missing and I just don't know what it is. And I like bringing in another something's missing didn't seem right.
Yeah, but even saying that into the space is including that experience, you know? Something's missing and I don't know what it is. And that is including that. You know? That is including and acknowledging the current state.
You can even say, I'm feeling really frustrated. I'm trying to find a solution and I can't find one. And the whole group will go, oh, okay.
Yeah.
Feels so much better. Really, I do that sort of thing all the time. Yeah.
I think
mostly with family.
I don't want them to get frustrated, you know?
Mm-hmm.
I don't want it, like, I don't want to share my frustration, really.
Mm-hmm.
I want everything to go well.
Your frustration?
Yeah.
Yeah. And
Hang out with the awful, the unknown.
that is in its form also an act of exclusion.
Mm-hmm.
People will feel it and they'll get frustrated.
One of
want you to be frustrated.
my teachers termed it the sacred messy.
The sacred messy.
Sacred messy. I love that.
Yeah.
Want to make sure we hear from everyone. It's almost o'clock on a Sunday night. Either with response to this Constellation, or if you prefer, how you feel now at the end of the 2 days.
There's a quality of relief for me around getting to just sort of embody loss so directly and intensely, that it's like there's a way where there was a healing quality to just being able to have that experience. I don't, and I don't want to get into a big thing. I'm a little, I don't know what to make of when Leslie, when you say that the loss is about us as a group, and not to make it all about me, but like there were elements of that, like I say, just felt extremely isomorphic for me personally.
Sure.
And so, you know, I was like, so then they were like, well, it's all of our loss. And I'm like, no, it's mine. What are you talking about? What loss do we have? We're here. You know? So I was a little confused, but that's whatever. But amazing, McCann. Thank you.
Yeah, I have lots and lots of material to process now, and I'm like, I don't know what my takeaway is yet, except this amazing quantity of both somatic and intellectual material. I just, it's sort of like it was kind of a crash course in early childhood psychology or something. Something that I thought I'll never go and I'll never study that, but here it was, and in a context for adults, and just like really accessible. And yeah, I took a lot of notes, but really, I think what happened was went deeper in than that. So thank you.
Thank you for
Yeah.
coming today, Jean-B.
Yeah.
You said you were thinking about not coming.
Oh, it's just
So-
like yeah.
So glad you came.
Thanks. Yeah.
You belong here. So I think I'm going to tell you all to drink a lot of water. Which I'm only partly joking about, right, Jade?
Yeah, hydration and trauma, they go hand in hand.
Really?
Just take care of yourselves. Be super
That's
gentle with
interesting.
yourselves. I mean, one of the gifts for me this weekend, I've been reminded about all of my attachment disorder stuff, all my trauma stuff. Like, oh, that thing I do, that's a trauma pattern. Oh, that thing I'm feeling, that's an attachment thing. And it's painful, and I hate it, and it's really useful to be able to see it, because what it does is it takes the judgment out for me. It just says, oh, okay. So just hold yourself with a lot of mercy. That was Jean-B's, and kindness and warmth. Any good final words of wisdom from you, Jade?
I would be very curious, and I'm going to do this myself, after what we've been through over the last little while, to see if you were to stand in front of the unknown and stand in front of your own desire to reach again, see if anything is different.
Huh.
All right. And then shoot her an email and let her know.
All right.
Yeah.
Or Facebook
Little
message.
things you do on my own. Yeah, I'm on the email list with you guys. You all have my details. But yeah, this has been beautiful. Thank you so much for showing up and for the space that you hold together. It's really, really an honor to be part of that.
Thank you so much,
Thank you,
Jade.
Jade.
Thank you,
Jade.
Jade. Thank you.
And please, if you have any last weekend desires you have not recorded here, this is not your last chance. But if you haven't thought later, you can email me. But this is just an opportunity if you have thoughts about what you want for the last weekend. I'll stop recording.